Oh.
Today, after nearly 2 decades of implementation and delays, the federal government's new identification requirements for traveling by plane domestically or entering federal buildings technically go into effect. This federally compliant ID card, known as Real ID, can only be attained with specific records and documents laid out by the federal government. It's labeled by a black or gold star in the upper right corner. Even though DHS Secretary Kristi Noem promised that, at least initially, people without a Real ID will only have to face some extra scrutiny at security checkpoints, it's safe to assume that, as the full requirement sets in over the next several weeks and months, some number of people will show up to airports unaware that they no longer have the documents required to board their plane.
Oh my God. I think that Real ID thing went into place a few days ago, or like a week ago. Whew, I would not want to be an airline worker when that went into place. I feel like airports are the worst customer service environments. That's where because you can, like that and like pulling people over if you're like a cop. I feel like these are the worst times of people's lives. Like if you have to miss a flight because you don't have something that you're required to have or whatever, it's just like, oof.
And because the process of getting through most domestic airports was grueling enough before the deadline, many expect air travel to be especially arduous during the transition. Because of the absoluteness of this new requirement and the harsh punishment for non-compliance, just picture what would happen to you if you tried to get into a federal building or onto a plane without the accepted forms of ID. It can be easy to write off.
Okay, hold on. This guy is being dramatic for no reason. Hold on.
Expect air travel to be especially arduous during the transition. Because of the
It's not that hard to get through a U.S. airport. It's annoying, but it's not like, how did he describe this? Hold on.
most domestic airports was grueling enough before the deadline.
Grueling enough, I guess. But that's usually because of like how long it takes if you have like checked bags. But
Many expect air travel to be especially arduous during the transition. Because of the absoluteness of this new requirement and the harsh punishment for non-compliance, just picture what would happen to you if you tried to get into a federal building or onto a plane without the accepted forms of ID.
the harsh punishment for non-compliance, if you don't have the right ID, they just won't let you through security, or they won't like let you get a ticket. I don't know what the harsh penalty would be, but
It can be easy to write off the Real ID requirement as some new rule that, while annoying, is probably being implemented for a good reason. It's not. As mentioned before, the Real ID Act was passed 20 years ago in 2005. It was one of the many measures rolled out in the wake of the 9/11 attacks that was presented to the public as being necessary to ensure that similar attacks would never happen again. The original bill specified that the federal government would refuse to accept any form of ID that did not meet the requirements Congress had passed by May of 2008. But as that date drew closer, few states had implemented the new provisions. Some governors had vocally refused to comply because they opposed what was, in effect, the implementation of a national identification database. That prompted the Department of Homeland Security to delay the deadline several times. First to 2011, then a complicated range of deadlines from 2013 to 2017 based on age and state of residence, then to one universal deadline in October of 2020. Then the pandemic hit, and the deadline was extended again to 2021, then 2023, and finally to today, May 7th, 2025. If these new ID requirements were as crucial to the safety of air travelers and the American public at large as the federal government has claimed, the sheer time it's taken to implement would be unacceptable. That alone is a sign that perhaps the federal government's motivations are not what they say. And indeed, if you look back at how and why the 9/11 attacks occurred, it's clear that preventing a similar attack is at most an extremely thin excuse for this new federal ID system. None of the 9/11 hijackers used fake IDs or pretended to be someone else when they checked in and boarded their flights. At the time, an ID check was only required during check-in, and the rule was not always enforced. All of the hijackers who were asked to show ID presented legitimate forms of identification, mostly foreign passports. One hijacker was flagged at check-in because
you mentioned yesterday that when it comes to podcasts like whatever, that you don't do the shows due to format. Are you still interested? What? No. When I said that yesterday, if I gave that impression, then I gave a misleading impression by accident. I don't like shows where, like some of these shows, it seems like the goal is explicitly just to bring on women and just shit on women and then laugh at like how stupid the women are. Like that kind of thing is kind of gross to me. I don't like to be on that in that format. And I don't know why. I don't have anything personal against Brian, but for some reason, it felt even more malicious on whatever than on Fresh and Fit. I don't know why. I don't know why I get that impression, but for some reason, it's just the vibe I got. I don't know.
he did not have a photo ID. Two other hijackers were similarly flagged by a joint FBI and FAA pre-screening system after identifying themselves. But the government's rules at the time only required the 3 flagged hijackers' checked luggage to be set aside until they had boarded their flights. A rule meant to prevent people from sending bombs on the flights they would then purposely miss, as is suspected to have happened in the famous 1988 Lockerbie bombing. All 3 hijackers were allowed to board their planes. So it's hard to see how anyone can seriously argue that some new ID requirements that would have done nothing to stop the 9/11 attacks are crucial for preventing future attacks of the same nature. The truth is that the Real ID is just the latest chapter in the federal government's 20-plus years.
Why do we allow anyone in the greater Middle East to have nuclear energy? They all have peak sunlight. They all obviously just want centrifuges to build bombs, including Israel. None of their bombed out assholes have an excuse or justification. Nick's magician. Good job. You pinged me with a question and you didn't make it insanely passive aggressive towards me. Klappa. Okay. Even if you have peak sunlight, I imagine it's still probably hard to store the energy at night or whatever, right? Because the sun doesn't come out 24/7. I'm pretty sure Israel, I know Israel has nuclear weapons, and have had them at least, I think they had one warhead that was done, I think, at least by 73. Because Moshe Dayan famously told Golda Meir that they might have to nuke. Fuck. I don't even know if he suggested a target, but I think they were, because the early hours of that war were looking dicey. My understanding, one day we'll look more, or maybe we'll do it today. Fuck it, because why the fuck not? My understanding is that the centrifuge stuff necessary for enriching uranium to weapons grade is just so extensive and so massive that it's impossible to hide an enrichment program like that. You just would never realistically be able to do it. So that's why that's not as much of a concern of that happening. Now, maybe I'm incorrect on that, or I have a old or faulty understanding, but... Although I will say, yeah, I mean, they are sitting on like some of the most easily accessible oil of all time. But I don't know, maybe they don't refine it as much. That doesn't seem intuitively correct. I'm not sure. I don't know what the drive would be for why they feel such a compulsion to push towards nuclear energy. I'm not sure.
Of using 9/11 as an excuse to protect and expand its power. Washington could have pursued the most plausible path to avoid future 9/11s by calling off the completely unnecessary meddling it had been conducting in the Middle East. The wars our government had waged, supplied, and bankrolled in the region had first strengthened the popularity of anti-American thought among certain radical factions of Sunni Islamists. Then, Osama bin Laden was able to seize on that sentiment and use his reputation as an anti-Soviet fighter in Afghanistan to convince a couple hundred followers to adopt his strategy of targeting the U.S. directly to draw the Americans into a war like the one he thought led to the Soviet Union's collapse. Instead, American politicians and bureaucrats decided to act as though the American public security could best be protected if they first gave themselves significantly more power and then used it to try and pacify the entire Middle East with the very same methods that had just convinced 19 young men to fly planes into American buildings. And as the neoconservatives and establishment warhawks helped boost the popularity of bin Ladenite thought with over 2 decades of relentless wars, incursions, covert operations, and air campaigns, American officials also seized on the opportunity to expand their power here at home. The federal government, of course, nationalized airport security, even though the private contractors handling it before were already tasked specifically with enforcing FAA rules, and the 9/11 hijackers had not packed anything that the FAA prevented them from taking on the plane. The attack was not an airport screening failure, but now it's all handled by a group that will continue to operate in every commercial airport in the country, regardless of how abysmal it is at detecting banned items. Beyond the airport, the federal government gave itself sweeping new...
Destiny stream, hold up, let me turn my volume up 25% more. You guys are fucking crazy. I don't believe you. I want to know who you're watching. Culture, I want you to send me a full essay, or I'm permabanning you, due tomorrow at midnight, 11:59 p.m. ET. I want you to send me a write-up of every streamer that you watch, and I want you to link me at least one VOD from each one. I want to hear the volume, because every time we fucking turn shit on, shit is like, hey, Destiny, check out this streamer at max volume.
Authorities to conduct surveillance on everyone, including American citizens, with the passage
of cool.
Taking after the regime in Beijing that they love to demonize for the same reasons. Federal bureaucrats in Washington built up extensive systems to monitor digital communication and track the American population with technologies like facial recognition. Real ID is the next major development in that effort. While the federal...
Do you see a case where an 18-year-old was killed for kicking a dude's door at 3 a.m. and everyone is saying it was justified? Nope, link me.
Requirements as of now are limited to specific documents and a mandatory facial image capture needed to attain a state ID. The law leaves the government plenty of room to expand those requirements to include biometric identifiers in federal databases like retinal scans, fingerprints, or DNA. In other words, while the issues with the initial Real ID rollout will mostly be limited to a few occasional long waits at the DMV or airport, the bill lays the groundwork for the federal government to force anyone who wants a state ID to forfeit biometric identifiers or facial recognition data to federal databases that would constitute the kind of detailed, de facto national ID system that the biggest tyrants in history could have only dreamed of wielding. That may seem a bit far-fetched, but it's naive to think that in the aftermath of another terrorist attack, the politicians and bureaucrats who are always looking for any excuse to expand their power would not use some new...
What a retarded video. Okay, what a waste of time. Okay. There's somewhere we are hosting the court filings. I can't find them the normal way. They should be on Pacer is what I use. That costs money to make an account. There's a website called like Court Listener, I think, that hosts them all. All right, we got Hasan Slop and Asmund Slop. Oh boy.
Global entry, whatever.
The only gripe I have with this is I have global entry. Why do I need this real ID thing too? LOL. Okay, what people don't realize, because the government has done an atrocious job of communicating this, and if you've been an airline traveler, like the government has said for the past like fucking, okay, I was gonna say like the past like 20 years, making like a hyperbolic comment, but it's actually been longer than 20 years. I believe, since the government first proposed Real ID. It's been over 20 years. And like airports, since I was like a teenager, have been saying like Real ID coming soon, Real ID coming soon, Real ID coming soon. I believe that if you check your driver's license and you look in the top right of your identification, you look at the top right of your license, if there's a star on it, that means it's already a Real ID. I think, actually, instead of thinking, let's just look. How many state driver's licenses are Real ID? Oh, all states. Okay, so if you have a driver's license in any state in the United States right now, all of them have a should have a star in their Real ID compliant. So you don't have to do anything extra or get an extra thing or anything like that. Do Americans not have a national identifying ID for all procedures? You have no idea how complicated identification and name shit is and decentralized in the United States of America. I learned about this when, I realized this, I guess, when me and Melina got married. And I was like, because we were trying to figure out, like, okay, well, how do we change her last name? And they were like, well, you would like write like her last name on the birth certificate, or not the birth certificate, the marriage certificate, like write it as Bonnell. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but like, is there like a federal thing? Like, what do I change it at? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, like, I'm sure her name is somewhere, right? Like her name has to be somewhere. And it's like, no, immigration might be dealing with her under a certain name, but just notify them that it's changed. Like, changed with who? Well, you just like write it on the marriage certificate. It's like, okay, but like, is somebody tracking that anywhere? And it's like, no. Okay. There is no federal. The only exception to this is if you have a social security number, there'll be a social security number that's attached to a name. But the even within the U.S. government, federal government, our systems are also segregated as well. So like just because the Social Security Administration has some piece of information about you doesn't necessarily mean that, say, the IRS will have the information or that Medicare will have the information. Now, sometimes Congress will explicitly authorize these things to communicate with each other. But yeah, we love our rights and decentralization in the United States. All right, what's up? What do you want?
Hey, just hopped on. There's a new Pragmatic Papers out. Everybody should go read it. It just came out. It's a really good one. There are just a few quick articles I'd like to just spotlight.
Gotcha.
Oh, just put it in the chat. Everybody go read it. So first, there was a really good one by Case regarding the EU tariff war stuff. This is kind of a big endorsement of a lot of the past articles. I think that Pragmatic Papers have done a great job of kind of keeping up with tariffs, trying to make it where it's understandable what's going on and how they're overlapping. Case did a really good job of kind of talking about how the EU tariffs have kind of fell into the background while we all kind of celebrate about China and things going back to normal with China, allegedly. Meanwhile, EU is probably about to just push Trump's shit in, and this could be a really tough fight. So,
well,
I recommend that
we'll
one.
see. To be fair, I don't know when this guy wrote this article, but today there was a huge victory announced for Trump in China. Did you see that?
Yeah, no, I heard that he came out and said we're gonna wait 90 days to really enforce these tariffs.
So why don't you stick that in your pipe and smoke it, huh? You Trump hater, you TDSer.
Yeah. Now all my puts just cratered. I was so looking forward because of all these empty ports. Now since it's happened, all of the ports will now instantly fill up with goods.
True.
Prices will fall. Eggs will be cheaper. People don't realize how important China is for egg prices.
Yep.
So I'm gonna be able to buy as many dolls as I want. That's kind of buoying me against all of my losses. Betting against Trump, which is always a bad move.
True. Okay, what else?
The second good article was by Party Tomatillo 799. He wrote about this really cool Holocaust survivor who died in 2008. I actually really liked it because it was a guy that spoke out about it and against fascism for the
he spoke out against the Holocaust. Brave. So,
he survived it, and then he went out and was like, "Hey, all you guys that like fascism, you shouldn't like fascism. So I hope you feel chastised. But it was I really liked it. It was a short read, but it kind of felt appropriate. That it's kind of like, man, seeing reading about accounts of people that survived really really tough political situations that then led to horrible events. It might sometimes feel like we're on the precipice of that, and so seeing people that survive it and kind of how they live their lives afterwards. I don't know. That kind of was a bit inspiring. I really liked that one, so I recommend people read it. And then the third article I want to shout out, we let some poor person come in and write an article about how great renting is or something. And yeah, his name is Stephen Borelli, and he wrote some kind of thing about how cool it is to rent property. I'm not sure I understand it very well, but
You probably wouldn't. Are you in a mortgage house right now?
um, I own multiple properties.
Oh yeah, you
And
definitely
my
wouldn't get it done.
relationship
Yeah.
with my relationship with renting is that's what poor people do
Mm-hmm.
to my property. So actually, I guess actually I do support this. People should read and take this to heart so that I can make more money
Okay,
off of
I'll just be
people like you.
finding what properties you rent. I'm gonna go rent it, fuck it up, and leave. All legal. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. So fuck you. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, me.
I hope it's in fucking California
Okay.
or something too. So if you try to sue me, I have like 52 years of renters protections. Oh hell yeah.
You keep trying to bait me into revealing personal information. So
Oh,
I'm not gonna
it's
respond
not a
to that
try.
comment.
I've already
Uh,
honed in on your entire location, but
Fair enough. But yeah, everybody go read that stuff. It's really good, and like every week they just keep ratcheting up the quality. I really enjoy it working with these people, and I really enjoy the stuff they put out. Um, Before I go, I have. Do you mind? Can you answer like one or two quick questions about Israel Palestine for me?
yeah, dude, I know everything about Israel Palestine. What do you got?
Okay, that's good to hear. Um, I got into an argument with some really far left friends of mine
Cringe. Go ahead.
about Israel Palestine. Yeah, they came to me and were like, "You're a two-stater, right?" And I was like, before October 7th, yeah. After October 7th, I genuinely don't know anymore how to interact with that region. I don't know how to have a political opinion about that stuff. It all just seems just way too complicated and beyond me. But I was like, I think there should have been a two-state solution with Arabic, maybe Arabic nations guaranteeing Palestinian support or Palestinian independence.
Sure.
They
Minor
recognize
thing.
Israel,
Arabic is technically the language, and Arab is the ethnicity. But yeah, go for it.
Sure, yes, you're right. Yeah, the pan-Arab nations, um, and just whatever cuck bullshit that a lot of two-staters say, where I don't really know, but it seems like there needs to be some kind of intervening agreement, whatever. They came back at me and said like, "Oh, that's literally not possible because Israel is a nuclear country, so no Arab country would ever be able to provide a security guarantee against Israel because it has nukes." And I think like maybe one of my more extreme perspectives is that I think that nukes are kind of a meme, and I don't think that that's like a real argument. I think that even if a nuclear power, like if Israel is this nuclear power, that these Arab countries could provide security guarantees that would actually matter. Do you think that's a valid argument to say that the nukes that Israel allegedly holds could prevent any kind of agreement like that?
That's way down the line of not being even remotely one of the most important things preventing any kind of agreement. So I would say that's kind of a meme, yeah.
Okay, because they kept like what would happen is like they asked me that I tried to like just talk about I don't know security guarantee bullshit, and then they go into this huge thing, and I was like, okay, what do y'all think? Because you guys read more about this apparently, and they just started talking about how Israelis need to just stop caring about having an ethno state, and they need to elect a different government, and blah blah blah, all that shit, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess the solution for like Russia, Ukraine would be for Russians to elect a different person who doesn't want a war in Ukraine, but like, I don't know how that's a solution to anything.
So okay, so a couple things. So one, it's kind of funny
Yeah.
that they brought up the nuclear thing because the nuclear thing actually is kind of a big deal, but it's a big deal for the exact opposite reason, and that's that a lot of people in the West probably and probably a lot of it, and probably just a lot of people, period, probably wouldn't be super comfortable with an Arab state having nuclear weapons like that, especially people that elected Hamas at one point in time. So the
Because
worries,
because of your racism against Arabic people,
yeah.
you have
So one
you
worry
just
would
can't handle the
be,
idea.
yeah. So one worry would be that you literally have like a group of people elect somebody like Hamas, and now imagine like Hamas has nukes. That's a spooky world that like basically nobody wants to have any part in.
Right.
So that's kind of one, these are not these aren't even like the leading concerns, I would say. But that would be like a thing that would just have to be hammered out. But that's not like intractable. That's not impossible to figure out.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but then so like because it feels like whenever I talk to them, and I don't know if I necessarily even disagree. They're kind of putting it where it's like the Israelis have all the agency, right? Like the Israelis hold the power. They do this. They have the agency here to do things, right?
Well, so
And if
okay,
we're
so
just looking at one,
here's the issue.
right.
Okay, so here's a couple things. Okay, this is an impossible argument, and nobody is left on the internet to have like meaningful discussions about this. But do you think that it would be moral to be able to choose the race of your children, like in a gene editing lab?
Oh yeah, like Gattaca or something,
Sure.
where it's
To be
you
able to
just you
race
get
to choose the race of your children.
I would say uh, as long as it's the race of one of you or your partner or a blend of it, I would say yes. If it's outside of your race, wait, you're saying
Okay.
morally?
Hold on. Okay. You just gave an answer that was even more in the direction that I was going that I even would have expected. So you said as long as it's in the direction of one of your parents. Okay. So when you think of like being able to dictate the race of a kid, you're thinking like, okay, there's a lot of different reasons why we can think this is maybe not great or probably wouldn't be the best thing in the world. But like, this is just not a thing. It's just not a thing that comes up or that we think about much because like when you have kids, kids are generally going to be your own race. So if somebody were to
Right.
say like, I think that like the race of a kid should generally match like the race of a parent, nobody's going to call you like an ethno-patriotage or whatever, or whatever. Nobody's going to call you like an ethno-birther or something. Like, oh, you think your kids have to match your race? Because it's just kind of like how things are. Kids tend to be the same or similar races as us. The issue when people
Right.
criticize Israel for being an ethno state is because Israel is quite particular about the ethnicity related to their immigration project, but it's because Israel faces incredibly unique pressure when it comes to ethnic threats being Jewish. So, for instance, if there was a country that had 5 million people, and then surrounding that country were a ton of other countries with 100 million people, and the 5 million country was race A, and all the other countries were race B, and to go even further, let's say that there was a history of conflict between race A and race B, and then to go even further, let's say that many people in race B have explicitly said they want to eliminate race A, right? Race A might say like, okay, well, hold on. I think I need to have kind of a more ethnically protected immigration policy just to ensure the safety of my ethnic group in my country. Now, it would be a little bit rich for all of the ethnic group B people to be like, wait a second, you have an ethno-supremacist, ethno-nationalist immigration policy? We don't. Well, the race A people would look at the race B people and go, well, of course you guys don't. There's like billions of you. You don't need to. It's not even a question in your guys' mind. No shit, you guys don't have that policy because none of you have any of these threats. There's not even anything you have to worry about. So that's bullshit that you can call us ethno-supremacists when you guys get that protection by default, because you better believe that if like 2 billion Chinese people wanted to go and immigrate across the Middle East, that all of the Middle Eastern countries would probably look a lot differently at their immigration policies. So whether or not you think that Israel's policy is good or bad when it comes to the kind of like the ethnic restrictions, I don't believe it's fair to just wield the word ethno and say that's bad as a result of that because of the pressures that they face. That would be my
The way
response
you're
to that.
framing it, yeah, the way you're framing it kind of reminds me of a lot of the discussion around like why there need to be, you know, black student unions but not white student unions, right? Where it's kind of a thing where it's like, yeah, it makes sense that this group might need to have its own separate thing, and this larger group, you guys have one. It's called the student union because you guys are already the majority represented there. I know it's not a one-to-one, but it kind of
Sure.
as
Yeah.
far as like bridging the gap for lefties, it's kind of like you understand this concept when it comes to kind of ethnic groups within the United States and having these different groups versus a whites only group. You know, extending that kind of logic over to here kind of makes sense. I see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect to get through to these people.
Sure.
But it was kind of a
That's
thing where they brought it up, and I was like, I don't know if because again, I'm not well read, so it's like they brought that up, and I was like, damn, maybe there's like legit like concerns about their nukes, and the Arab nations aren't hopping in. That
yeah,
I
there
just haven't
are
heard about.
legit concerns about the nukes, but the legit concerns have always been, would we feel comfortable with like Hamas controlling the nukes? That's
Yeah.
usually the legitimate concern. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing, real quick, the issue with Israel-Palestine is that there are non-negotiables on both sides that need to be negotiated on, and neither side
Okay.
at this point in time will give anything on those grounds.
Okay, so that was like where I come into my second one. So they go back and forth about like they're just like whenever they get pushed to like actually like, hey, can you give me your position? They just start memeing like, let me tell you about how crazy these Jews from New York are in Israel, and it's like I don't care about this. But then I'll be like, okay, well, like, and so I said, you guys put a lot of agency on the Israelis to like solve this problem. So if that's the case, how do you guys see influencing the Israelis to go in that direction? If you're saying that's the solution, how do we get there? There was crickets, and they're like, "What? We don't think that's possible." And I said, "Okay, well, if I was thinking about it, one thing that I know about that I've heard you talk about is that the Palestinian right of return is like a really big issue, and that all of these Palestinians outside of Israel are refugees who aren't getting citizenship in these Arab nations.
They're
And so
explicitly
it's like,
forbidden from getting citizenship. Yeah.
right,
hmm
which like one of my friends just didn't even know that was a thing, and then the other one he immediately goes, well, if those Arab nations gave them citizenship,
Then
it would,
Palestinians would
one,
lose their ability to ethnically fight over Israel. They would have no more fight.
not even that. Not even that. They go, one, they would make those Arab nations complicit in the ethnic cleansing, because it would be like resettlement for Israel.
Yeah.
Two, Israel would use that as an excuse to like deport the Palestinians. And then three, Palestinians would just cease to exist.
Yeah,
because they
all
would
of
be
those
in the
three
Arab
arguments are, essentially what I said earlier. The reason why that refugee problem
Okay.
is kept the way that it is because it allows the fight to drag out indefinitely and to mount greater and greater odds against Israel. Like, when you are a Palestinian refugee, even if you were like a Jordanian citizen, because when Jordan annexed the West Bank in 48, they gave citizenship to everybody living there. Those people who are descendants of the people of there are all still considered refugees. But part of the reason why is so that Palestinians can say, look, there are 7 million Palestinian refugees. I think the number is 5, 6, 7 million Palestinian refugees. A lot of these people were born and raised in cities in neighboring states that are whose parents might have been born and raised there, who've never been to Palestine in their entire lives, but they're still considered refugees. But what it allows is for Palestinians to say, look at all these refugees, we need to bring them back.
Right, and so and then also it allows Israelis on the far extreme ethno-state, whatever, say, look, there's all these Palestinians poised to come back. We can't have a one state because they'll come back and vote the Holocaust in, right?
A little, yeah.
And so I said, and not even examining the truth of that statement or any of that stuff. It's just like it's very clear that both sides, and the Palestinians in Israel, or like in the West Bank and Gaza, clearly feel a lot of pressure to keep that in the negotiation. Like they feel like that, like you said, it's a non-negotiable where we have to have that in
Yes.
there. And to me, it's like I think it's just like a very childish understanding of how like citizenship works and things like that, where it's like those people could be citizens of like Saudi Arabia or Iran or whatever, and then you get this, you have a one state solution, whatever, and then we just have no right of return for Jews or for Palestinians, and you just have a normal citizenship naturalization process that can be controlled by the government.
Well,
and they can regulate it.
you got to be really careful
I
with
understand
that.
that's like
You got to be really careful with that because from the Palestinian perspective, they've had their land stolen from them and they've lived under this quasi-apartheid-ish, divided state oppressive regime from Jewish people, and there's still a question of how do we resolve this. If the resolution ends up being a one-state solution with the majority of Palestinians denied their right of return, where Jewish people maintain an ethnic majority in the state, then Palestinians are going to feel like, oh, cool, we created a one state from the river to the sea. It's just all Jews now. We actually lost everything. Jewish people are still in government. They can theoretically deny right of return to every Palestinian. And now the Jews, through clever negotiating tactics, have basically secured the West Bank and the Gaza Strip for themselves. That's why the ethnic stuff is so important for the numbers on both sides, is because the Palestinians don't want to feel like they're going to agree to a one state where they're a minority, because now they have no state now. They've lost literally everything. Jews conquered it all.
Sure, no, like I understand, like I can understand that motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how they feel about it. That's all that stuff. But it's like, okay, well, you've had 80 years to build some leverage in order to get things. It's not there, and like these people are very clearly like, we're okay just dying rather than, compromising and whatever. But from like an outsider's perspective, it's like, okay, well, if there's no one going to come in and intervene on behalf of the Palestinians to create leverage, and the Palestinians don't have any leverage and are not willing to compromise, right? I'm not saying that Israel is right in what they're doing, but it's just kind of a thing where it's like, I literally don't know how to have a conversation with these people where it's like, yeah, okay, well then I guess Israel's just gonna like wipe them all out and that's it. Because like you're telling me you're afraid that Israel's gonna like deport more people, or that Israel's gonna do these. Israel's already doing these things. At least even in your eyes. Let's just assume everything you believe about Israel is correct. They're already doing all of these horrible things. So all of these weird holdouts that you're taking and these weird positions to try to like maximize a future potential like deal are not coming to fruition because they're just doing it anyway. So like,
yeah,
it's kind of that thing where like
it's complicated because you have to. There's a difference. Westerners don't know anything about it, so it's hard to argue with them because they're just going to say retarded shit. But from the Palestinian perspective, the idea of giving up the entirety of the state to a Jewish majority that would be a complete and total defeat in their eyes, and they would have completely lost everything. So that's probably why they would be reluctant to make that big of a concession. Yeah.
Sure, but I mean, like, at what point, whenever, I mean, like, I don't think that you necessarily, I don't think I've ever seen you partake in the kind of like oppressor oppressive politics, but it's just kind of a thing where it's like, okay, well, at one point, are we just gonna like have to just acknowledge that these people, no matter what their feelings are not going to get what they want? Like,
unfortunately, that's the adult
right?
decision, but that's impossible. You can't. Again, Westerners don't accept that, and obviously Palestinians don't want to accept that. You also have to keep in mind too, though, that in 48, the Palestinians were promised up till then that all of the Arabs would show up and kick the fucking Europeans out when they were all immigrating. All the European Jews were coming to the Middle East, and the Palestinians were fucking hyped up and ready to go because they'd gotten basically raped by the Brits from 36 to 39. And then they got somehow defeated by the fucking Jews in 47. And then in 48, all the Arab states were like, okay, Palestinians, let's go get these guys out. And the Arab states show up and they suck shit at military anything. And then from 48 to 67, everybody, there's like Palestinian terrorist groups, the PLO forms, like, Jordan kind of helps Arafat like gain some footing. Like all of these people are ready to go. And they're like, okay, we'll get him. And the Palestinians are getting gassed up to fight like fucking everywhere. And they start to slowly realize like, hey guys, what's going on? Why are we fighting as much as we would? And then like, I think the first like big domino is, oh my God, I forgot the dates. Egypt peaced with Israel. Is that in 79? Eventually Egypt signs peace with Israel, and that's a huge deal because Egypt was, prior to Sadat coming into power, it was Nasser who was one of the, biggest, haters of Israel ever. You get these new people that come in who are signing peace treaties with Israel. You get the fall of the Soviet Union in 91, which was a big backer of the Arab states. And now the Palestinians, basically, there are these people who are like hyped to fight for their territory, and they had all this surrounding support. And they're slowly looking around and realizing, wait a second, Egypt is gone. Fucking Jordan is gone. It's like 80% Palestinians. They're gone. The Gulf states have always been meaningless. Syria just had another fucking collapsed civil war. Fuck us. And now they're like, fuck, who do we have left to help us fight? We have fucking Iran. It's like the only supporter anymore now via Hezbollah and Yemen. And so they're like, yeah, so it sucks. I'm just saying, like, there's some empathy due for the Palestinians because the Palestinians seemed like they had a whole bunch of allies on their side. And this is, by the way, why Israel was so sympathetic for so long, because they were like fighting like every fucking Arab state. But those allies have slowly peeled off over time. And then you have this weird doublespeak where Arab leaders will come out and they'll be condemnatory of Israeli actions and shit. And the Arab street loves to hear that language because they're like, yeah, these fucking Jews, these Israelis are crazy. But Arab leadership, I think it's been done fighting with Israel for like the past like 50 years. Arab leadership is like, Israel's here. They're here to stay. The U.S. is awesome. Like, fuck this. Like, let's just work with the Jews. But we'll like shit talk them in public, I guess. But like, this is like stupid. This is why I'm really critical of people who think that the Abraham Accords were this massive step forward in relations. Because like, really, like all the states like south of fucking like Syria, Iraq, and Iran are like done fighting with Israel. They don't give a fuck about that. Even the Muslim Brotherhood, when they took over in 2011, I think in Egypt, were like, yeah, we got a peace deal. We're fine. Fuck it. So I'm just, yeah. Not to justify, like, obviously the conflict can't last forever, but if you're a Palestinian or of Palestinian heritage, man, you are super mindfucked because you got ultra betrayed by basically fucking everybody.
Yeah, and like I've heard, I think I've heard you say similar things before, and like I'm able to have sympathy and things like that, but it's kind of a thing where it's like everyone keeps talking about how they want U.S. to end the aid to Israel, and I was like, okay, how much? Like my friends brought that up, and I was like, well, how much aid do we give them? And they were like 20 billion, and I was like that, and I looked it up, and that's an arms deal, so we're selling them arms,
Mm-hmm.
so that's not aid. And I was like, well, okay, do you, what about just straight aid? And it's like, oh, it's like maybe like
Is it
500 million a year.
Okay, I thought it was 2 to
It
3
was
billion,
like
but it's an
maybe
okay
it
amount.
is
But it's
because
not, it's not
I
like an
couldn't
ultra
find I
significant
couldn't
amount.
it
It's
was yeah. It just every time I was like I'd look into this, I'm like I don't even see what, and then I'm like, well, okay, but what about the fact that y'all think that Harris and Trump would have been similar, blah blah blah, that stuff. And like they were like, oh well, if we'd gone down the same road with Harris as Biden had done, what difference would there have been, blah blah blah. Or like Biden, they said Biden never actually committed to a ceasefire. He never actually cared about a ceasefire, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And I was just like, okay, then I really don't know how to
Mhm.
have this conversation with y'all, because like I'm just
Sure.
telling you how I feel about it, and then they keep pulling it. So I just want to make sure that I wasn't like
Also,
they
keep in
weren't
mind that
bringing
like
stuff up that
something I
was
bring up a
all
lot.
crazy.
Timelines are important. When people say things like Biden didn't care about a ceasefire, there's a huge difference between trying to do a ceasefire on October 8th versus a year later, right? It's very easy. Or it's much easier to pull a ceasefire from the Israelis when they've killed all three of the top Hamas leadership and crippled Hezbollah and like fought off attacks, missile attacks from Iran. Like getting a ceasefire at that point is significantly less impressive than early on. So just a thing. The timelines are important, but yeah.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. Again, everybody, go read the Pragmatic Papers. Put it in the chat one time. Thanks again, and hey, have a great rest of your day, man.
Yeah, have a good one. Okay. Hasan slop. Oh boy.
Right. I get to the global entry line, and they're
Oh, also, hold on. I want to correct something. So I think every single state can do Real ID, but apparently it's not guaranteed to be Real ID. If you don't bring the right documents, or when you're at your checkout counter, apparently they can still issue driver's licenses that aren't Real ID compliant. So careful. I need you to tell me my friend is retarded when it comes to a small business meme. What do you want?
Yellow.
Hi, what's up?
All right. I need you to tell me if my friend is retarded or if I am. I just need your input on it. I run a small business. It's just a cleaning business, and sometimes I do graffiti removal. It's like usually a 30-minute to like an hour job. It's like pretty low manual labor stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like putting on chemical on the wall for the graffiti and then pressure washing it off.
Okay. You're retarded.
Why?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know. Sorry. Go, I'm sorry. No, what's the question? What's the question?
The question, I'm trying to see like how much I want to prime you for this because I don't want to sway you in a way.
Why would you? I'm unprimable. I'm the ultimate objective Giga Chad on every single issue ever, so I'm unprimable. Go ahead.
Okay. So I offer like my friends that have like part-time jobs because they don't make like that much money. So like I offer them to help me to do like a little bit just to be like, I can give you like a little bit of money here and there.
Real quick, the small business that you run, less than 20 employees?
No employees. It's all around just me.
Oh, okay. So it's you, solo operation. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I tell them, I have a graffiti removal job. It's gonna take like 30 minutes, an hour. You're just gonna be brushing on chemical. And I'm like, can you do it for X amount of dollars? Usually like I pay him like $100 or something, right?
Sure.
And then my friend would be like, well, how much are you making off it? I'm like, does that matter? Like either you want to work for like the $100 for an hour or you don't, right?
Yeah.
But apparently it matters like however much I'm making. They'll be like, well, if you're making like a couple $1,000, I want to get paid more. I'm like, why does it matter how much I'm making? Doesn't it only matter like what you're happy with working for?
Okay.
No.
Is that everything?
No, I mean like if I offer you a job,
Mm-hmm.
do you care how much I'm as the business owner am making?
I mean, the answer is yes, but it's not really relevant. Like, your ultimate argument is correct. But do you want me to explain?
Well, I want them to listen to it so you can explain.
So I mean, like, it will
They
matter.
think I'm
Like,
in the
if you're
wrong.
making an ungodly amount of money, then you're probably ripping them off, and and the more important part is they can probably find better rates from somebody else, right? That would be the real argument. But the idea that, like, if you're making more than they are off of it, then you should acknowledge that and say, yeah, that's right. So in that case, I guess I won't be hiring you, and good luck. You can go sell your own jobs, and then boom, and then kick them to the curb. That's retarded. Of course you're getting paid more. I imagine there's probably a greater investment on your end in terms of finding people, in terms of advertising, in terms of selling jobs, in terms of putting your reputation, everything on the line to do that. I mean, I understand it's a small business, so it's not like Walmart or something, but still, like, that's all part of the procurement process for work. Nobody's making one-to-one off of the revenue that they generate for a business that they're making for, you know, their individual pay. If they were, it would be socialist. Tell them to go start a co-op or something and find their own jobs, sell their own jobs.
Yeah, I understand that, but they're like, I don't know why the thought process is. It's not like when you go to apply to a job online, the job like listings, unless it's like a really high career end job where you can negotiate like a salary. Like you apply for the job because it pays X amount. If you don't want the job, you don't apply to it, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of do the same thing, and I don't know where else they're gonna like work for 30 minutes to an hour and make like $100 quickly.
Probably
for,
not.
like, a lower
Probably nowhere else.
job.
So fuck them.
Yeah, so when they bring up the thing of like, oh, well, it's percent dependent. Like, how much do you make? I want to make like
Percent
a percentage
dependent.
of
Well,
what.
I'm sorry. These guys employees now that are negotiating for a fucking commission? No, it's an offer. If you want to clean this and make $100, then do it. If you got something better to do with your time, if your time is worth $200 an hour or $100 an hour, then go sell your liver somewhere else. That's super easy. That's supply and demand.
I mean, that's what I tell them, but apparently it depends how much I make, and they feel like they're getting financially like fucked over. Think
No.
I'm like fucking
Well,
them
then
over
go
if I
find
make
some
a
other guy who
bunch.
wants to get financially fucked over and let him do the job. Then they're not forced to do the work, right? These people aren't your slaves, are they?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. I'm just trying to like give my friend like
Then
an
fuck 'em.
opportunity to just make like what? Oh, yeah, but
Yeah, fuck them.
But
Tell them
also,
to go sell their labor somewhere else for $100 an hour if they can do that. It's easy.
I also don't believe them on the percentage thing because let's just say for some reason I make like $500,000 off this job, but I pay them $1,000. Are you really gonna give up $1,000 for an hour's like work? No. So it's clearly not
The immediate answer
percentage-based.
is, yeah, the immediate answer would be no. The long-term answer would be you probably wouldn't take that job because chances are if you were making 500,000 off the job, you'd probably be paying somebody else like 100,000 or 200,000 to do it, right? So the market would hopefully sort that out, assuming no bad.
Yeah, the preface
external
preface
events,
being it's like a single time like random thing. It's not like a
Sure.
consistent job, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a number that no matter what you'll take. You don't care how much I'm making. At some point, you're gonna be like, okay, I'll take that amount of money. And the whole point is to be like, okay, you'll take that amount. Okay, well, you take this amount, this amount, this amount, and so on until you find out the amount they won't take, right?
Yeah, kind of. The supply demand, the negotiation part is based on the person's willingness to sell their labor at a given value, not about the amount of money that the other person is making on the transaction. And you can find this out very easily by switching who's being preferred in that situation. Let's say that you give your friend a job for $1,000 or for $100 for an hour, and then let's say that at the end the person stiffs you and they don't actually pay you. Would your friend go, oh shit, well, since you didn't make anything on that, I'll go ahead and give back all the money that I was paid for doing the job? The answer would immediately be no, right? They don't give a fuck if you lost money on something, or they don't give a fuck about anything on that end. They're not the one putting up any of the risk on that end.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was just seeing like why their thought process would be it's dependent on how much I make. They feel like they're getting fucked over just because I'm
Part of
making
it-
a lot of money when it doesn't matter.
Part of it might have to do with the fact that, like, when you start mixing like friends and business, stuff can get weird because people can start to feel like very personally about things. A super common example of this is if you do anything related to art, friends typically won't take that seriously, or they don't view it as like a real job. Like, oh, like, can you draw something for me? And then they give you this whole list of things. You're like, okay, well, this is what I would bid this job out for. And they're like, oh, come on, dude, don't you like doing art? Like, it's fun, right? Like, you're really gonna charge me for this? You know, if you own a business, they might just think that, like, oh, okay, well, like, show me your raw, like, you know, P&L sheet or whatever, and then I want to just bid for this job based on what you fucking sell it for. And it's like, you wouldn't even do that with an employee. Like, no. But it might just be that friendship relationship also kind of like blurs the line a lot, and people feel like they're more entitled to you know, some kind of compensation that otherwise nobody would feel a part of. Yeah.
I think they also get off this feeling of like, I don't need your charity feeling for some reason, even though I'm just like trying to help out my friend make like a quick dollar. Like, I don't even care that much, but it just feels like I don't need your money. I'm just.
Well, then fuck him. Then tell him he doesn't. I don't know, find somebody else to work it. Easy.
Yeah. All right. See ya.
Be careful.
Telling me you gotta get global entry, whatever, right? I get
Wait, what? Sorry, hold on.
global entry, first time ever. Okay, first time ever getting into global entry. I got it after my brother yelled at me over and over again, telling me you gotta get global entry, whatever, right? I get to the global entry line, and they're processing everybody expeditiously. You walk up, boom. You walk up, immediately they take your photo of your face, and you walk in, and there's a customs person there, cop there, just basically waves you. Okay? And they do that over and over again. It gets to me. Take a photo. Boom. Walk in. Instantly, the Customs and Border Patrol agent goes, "Step aside, sir." I was like, here we fucking go. All right. She goes, "Step aside, sir. An agent will come in and take you to another location." I was like, is that proper protocol? It's like, sometimes it happens. And I was like, okay. And I knew at that point, I was like, okay, I'm texting like family. I'm like, this is happening. I'm texting my manager. You know, I was basically I got Lolo on. I was like, listen, you know, I'm going in. All right. I'm freaking going in. It's who knows how long this will take? Who knows what will happen? And I had already heard like horror stories from people. There was like that one girl on TikTok that had talked about this. And I thought to myself, all right, it's done. It's happening to me as well. It is what it is. You know, M is real high. I'm about to say M is real high multiple times to get these guys off my back. So I'm waiting in the corner. This Latina ICE agent comes up, picks me up, takes me to this detention center. I sit down, fluorescent light bulbs, the whole nine.
Okay, dude, I've been in and out of the country so much. I'm wondering who's traveled more internationally. He might just do this shit because it plays well with his audience. Bro, you can get pulled over or stopped for any number of fucking reasons when you're coming back through the United States. When he says detention center, it sounds like he was still in the airport. He means that they like walk you across the hallway and then you sit in a room where there's like 10 other people waiting because you got fucked on the random draw or whatever, or you look too Middle Eastern or whatever, and they want to sit there and question you for 30 minutes to an hour. But, okay.
Okay. They have benches in the back of O'Hare Airport where.
Oh, yeah. So he's still in the airport. When he says taken to a detention center, like they fucking drove him an hour away out to some fucking private prison or something. Okay.
There's like a detention area. Okay. There's a detention area. I'm sitting there. There's like a bunch of terrified families.
Yeah. There's always like 10 or 20 other people, and this shit always takes fucking forever. Oh, my God. And the worst part, I already know what he's going to try to victimize himself on the, political extremism. The worst part, the true torture here, because they do torture you. I don't know why, but when you're in these fucking rooms, they tell you you're not allowed to use your cell phone. Or at least in DCA, I think it's international, I think, right? And LAX is international. No, it was LAX and Miami is where I've flown in from. I don't think I ever got stopped from coming through DCA. So you're sitting in this stupid fucking room for way too fucking long because it takes these people forever to ask you the most basic retarded question, and they say no cell phone allowed. You're not allowed to have your cell phone on. It's like, are you fucking serious? I don't even know why. But okay, whatever.
Okay, there's an old lady in a wheelchair. There's like a mom and daughter behind me. There's some like random dude in front of me. And the way it works is there's a back door, right? And they take your passport, they go to the back door. You don't know what the hell's going on in there. but they sometimes come out and they just say someone's name
And then you
with
go
their
back and
passport in their hands, and they go, "You're clear to leave." So they basically, when they bring you to the detention area, they, I guess, do some kind of surveillance on your background to figure out if you are, if you're going to get harassed even further, or if this level of harassment is fine. Okay?
All right.
And I asked, and I looked around at all the passports that people had to see if there were other American citizens. And lo and behold, at least in the area that I was at, I was the only American citizen. There was another guy that actually had an American passport as well, but like,
Wait, what?
okay. And I asked, and I looked around at all the passports that people had to see if
You asked everybody to look at their passport? I thought he just said that, don't they take your passport? Is it? I don't believe this. That he did a passport check on everybody and verified that he was the only U.S. citizen? I don't believe this. I think he's completely making this part up, but okay.
there were other American citizens. And lo and behold, at least in the area that I was at, I was the only American citizen. There was another guy that actually had an American passport as well. But like, because I asked the terrified family behind me, I was like, "Hey guys, if you don't mind me asking, like, do you guys have an American passport?" And they were like, "No." So it turns out it's just they're terrifying the shit out of mostly non-American citizens.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that he fucking asked them. No shot. Oh, you guys, do you have an American passport? No shot. I don't believe this.
Okay. But apparently they're also interested in trying to terrify American citizens as well. So they're just like coming in and out. They get this lady in a wheelchair out of there, which I thought was so insane. Old lady in a fucking wheelchair is in the ICE detention area.
This is not the ICE detention center, like you're fucking being. You have no idea why she's there. It could be any number of reasons for why she's there. Maybe she has the incorrect visa. Maybe she has no visa. Maybe she was flagged because she stayed in the country for too long. Maybe there could be some crime. Like, you have absolutely no idea. The fact that you see somebody in a wheelchair, you're like, what? That's impossible. Why? There's nothing there. Like, it's beyond stupid, but whatever.
Yeah. And they come out with their passport and they're like, "Here, you can leave." Okay. So.
Oh, so they didn't even do anything with her?
And
Like,
they get this lady in a wheelchair out of there, which I thought was so insane. Old lady in a fucking wheelchair is in the ICE detention area. And they come out with their passport and they're like,
is it ICE or TSA? For this, I believe when you're doing re-entry into the country, this is going to be ICE or some DHS or sub-department of Department of Homeland Security. I don't believe you're going to be, TSA won't be doing these types of like immigration checks, I'm pretty sure.
"Here, you can leave."
Or CBP, Customs and Border Patrol.
Okay. So that's one thing, right? Like, I've had secondary searches and stuff done to me before. I've had the I think it's called the quadruple S. Like, they put the SSSS on your boarding pass, and you always get checked randomly when you get hit with that. Like, that's happened to me a lot in the past. I get GSR swabbed all the time. That stuff is normal. I've experienced that quite a bit. Okay. But this time I didn't even have the quadruple S on my boarding pass. So I was like, all right, it's probably fine. So I wait. Finally, this agent comes out, says, "Hasan Piker." I'm like, "That's me. Coming with me." I'm like, "Oh, brother, here we go." They take me to this back room. Okay. And the back room is not great. Everything, the back room is designed in the most hostile way I've ever been inside of a room. The vibes are really fucked back there.
Oh my God, dude. It's so dramatic. Holy shit. Everything in the airport sucks. All the rooms suck, okay? All of an airport. Actually, I don't even know if it's so much that the rooms suck. Maybe they do. I think it's more just the experience of like, I just finished traveling. I finally landed. I'm back home. You might be tired or agitated from the airplane trip. And now I gotta fucking sit and wait in this bullshit ass room and answer these bullshit ass questions from this random fucking dude who doesn't want to be like, and the chairs are uncomfortable. So I don't even know if they're like optimally designed to make you crazy. It's just a bad, you're in a bad state. Everything's bad.
Everything is fluorescent light bulb. obviously, but
No
they had these
LEDs.
2 seats that were firmly.
How many times have you had this happen? I think 2 or 3 times. A couple times with Melina, and then I think once or twice on my own. But I've traveled quite a bit internationally. It's every time is fucking annoying as fuck. That stuff that he was talking about before, like GSR swabs and stuff like that. That's like for domestic travel and getting random like domestic screening. I don't think you get swabbed like that for like ICE or CBP or like coming back into the country. Or at least I don't think that's ever happened to me. That's stuff that you're gonna find when you're going through security. These are different things, but
planted into the ground. Okay, they were complete metal. They were like tiny stools, very uncomfortable, with like braces on the side so you can handcuff someone to them.
my God.
Okay, and
That's crazy.
there was also a seat for like a lawyer. So I sat down on the lawyer seat on the corner to establish dominance because I've watched too many JCS interrogation videos and I knew I had to have command over the room. So I didn't sit in the cuck chair. Instead, I sat in the lawyer chair and we got to talking. And
This is some minimum wage employee. No, I'm sorry. They don't get minimum wage, but this is just some random fuck employee who doesn't give a fuck about any of this. And Hasan is sitting down like he's about to have like the fucking debate of his life. And it's just some dude who could not give a fuck less. Who's like, oh God, get me the fuck out of here.
tell you folks, the TikTokers that talked about being detained, they were right. It was an insane fucking situation. So, it's very obvious that they knew exactly who the fuck I was.
They have
it's
no
very
idea
obvious
who
that
the fuck he
they
is.
knew how to like navigate the conversation.
They do know how to navigate the conversation because they probably have 100 or more of them a day.
And it was a really, really interesting conversation that took place. It was very cordial. Okay, it was very cordial, which I noticed. I thought it was strange how cordial it was because I've had run-ins with like cops in the past. I've had run-ins with.
It's cordial because they don't assume you're guilty. They just have questions. They got to run you through. You could have been screened for any number of reasons. Actually, wait, did he say this is the first time he came back in with global entry? Oh, actually, that might have been one of the times why I got screened, because when I got global entry, they might just do that by standard. If you come back through and it's your first time with global entry, they might pull you aside. Maybe that's like a normal thing for people that just got it. So it was probably, maybe it's, I actually don't know 100%, but maybe it is, because I'm remembering maybe that's, they never said that, but.
Feds in the past. Well, I guess the FBI was very cordial as well when I had some talks with them in the past. But overall, I was not expecting CBP agents to be cordial. I will say that. Okay.
Well, I mean, in one way, it's good to get the real life experience, I guess. But in another way, I guess it's a little disappointing. It's like, bro, they're just like ordinary workers. These are normal people. Like people that work in police, people that work even in immigration, believe it or not, don't all fucking hate immigrants. Like a lot of them apply for a lot of jobs just what they get. It's not like every single person that works at the airport for CBP is like, I'm going to find these goddamn illegals. I'm going to get them the fuck out. Most of these people don't give a fuck. Most of these people do not give a fuck about like politics or Trump or any of that bullshit. They're just there to do their job and get the fuck out.
Now, having said that, the entire process is supposed to be intimidating. So it's fucking bullshit. Like, suck my dick, cordial or whatever. Okay. I think they were being cordial because they wanted me to say something that was incriminating and say something that was enough to justify further detention from that point on. And let me tell
That's half true. Well, but it depends on the type of question you're in. I think I've told this story a few times. When I was coming back through Germany like 12 years ago, and I was answering questions, and I thought I was talking to the cops or whatever, easy as fuck, and I got super mind fucked like 10 minutes into our conversation. I was like, oh shit, I'm like fucked. They are going to act friendly, of course, because they want you to just like say random shit.
you, they certainly did do that. So he knew exactly who the fuck I was, but he was basically like broaching the conversation in a way where it was like free flowing, where in the process of discovery, he was adding on additional talking points.
Yeah, because depending on people don't like to hear this, but people like cops can size you up pretty easily. Like they talk to a lot of people, they see a lot of people. People can usually tell when you're being really sketchy. People can usually tell when you're trying to hide shit. You know, it just depends on. No, yeah, it's usually pretty easy to tell. Yeah.
He always made it seem as though he was asking certain things that after discovering in the process of that conversation, he would ask additional questions. So
That's called a conversation, Hasan. Yes.
you know, he's like, oh, what are you doing in Chicago? And I was very revealing. I was like, well, I was in France because
Because I was a freedom fighter interviewing the freedom fighters and the far leftist parties to fight against American hegemony. And this, dude, I was like, all right, bro. Did they give you any weird packages or anything? And he's like, yeah, they gave me packages with freedom information. I was like, all right, were any of these packages ticking? And he's like, and then they tried to get me on bond. And it's like, bro, these.
because I want to take my family out for Mother's Day to France, but I had to come back early from France, even though today is technically Mother's Day, because I have a speaking engagement at University of Chicago. And he was like, oh, what kind of speaking engagement? It's like, I don't know, some like journalism school stuff. And he's like, oh, well, since you mentioned that, he kept saying, oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And he's like, well, since you mentioned that you were a Twitch streamer, what kind of things do you stream about? And at first I was like, do I just tell him I play video games? Because I don't think this motherfucker's going to believe me if I say I just play video games to him.
He has no idea and he doesn't give a fuck. He's just waiting to see if you say something real stupid or they're waiting for something else to process, right? Remember, like half the shit when cops are talking to like, hey, how's it going? Can I ask you a few questions? What's going on? The cops aren't necessarily like, I have 4 things in mind. I'm going to trap him. I'm going to fucking get him, right? The cops are just like asking questions like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? And then it's up to you at that point. It's kind of like when you're on a date with a woman, right? Like if you're on a date with her and she's going out with you, she's already decided you're worth some shit. It's up to you not to fuck it up at that point, right? Sometimes when cops interview, now it depends if they get a call or something, or if he's having a real bad day, maybe you can get fucked up. But like when they start asking questions, it's up to you not to be a fucking retard. So if someone's like, oh, what do you do for work? And you're like, oh, I'm a Twitch streamer. It's like, what do you stream on Twitch? And you're like, okay, well, maybe I don't do, yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe I don't stream full time, I guess. And it's like, oh, well, wait, well, what do you do full time? Or what do you stream on? It's like, well, if you start like fucking up like that, then you'll get fucked up. Then they'll know what's going on. But also like police officers or people that work in these jobs, they also are used to nervous people as well. You know, like people who are nervous don't necessarily throw up red flags. Everybody gets nervous. I think even in hospitals, they call this, like, is it called white coat syndrome or something? Where when you take somebody's blood pressure or vitals at the hospital, you expect them sometimes to be a little bit high because people are just nervous getting their vitals taken. Just because you give a nervous answer doesn't mean that they're going to like, oh, we're going to fucking arrest this guy. It would just be if you say some weird shit or shit doesn't start lining up, basically.
Right? So I was just like, yeah, I play video games, but I also do current events sometimes, drama, internet. And he's like, oh, do you talk about, since you mentioned that, you talk about the things that you talk about, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying, okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first time where I was like, what the fuck is this question? Like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? Like,
I seriously doubt Hasan said that. He probably nervously mumbled his way through this whole interview, but confrontation is probably the worst thing that you can do, regardless of whether or not you think it's right or wrong. Generally, the worst thing you can do when you're talking to police officers or when you're talking to Customs Border or whatever is to start getting confrontational. Like, why the fuck are you asking me what the fuck I do, motherfucker? That starts to become sketchy or weird. Because I think most people by default aren't going to be confrontational. So when you do that, you're making yourself stand out for no reason.
I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And it was interesting because,
okay, if the person did bring up politics, that is really weird. No, they're just going to ask, they're going to talk to you. They want to hear you talk about whatever random shit. They just want to hear you talk through it. Because the more that you talk, generally speaking, don't talk to the cops. You don't have to. Please don't misinterpret my advice is that you should offer up whatever you can to cops. But if you're dealing with a good faith actor and it's just a guy doing your job, the more that you talk, the more that they could figure out what you're really about. Like they'll have talked to enough people and seen enough people that they'll be able to figure out like, especially for people that work in security or police or whatever, they'll have like an intuition of like that dude over there, that motherfucker's sketchy. I can tell that motherfucker's sketchy. And the more that you talk, the more that you either confirm that or okay, this is just an ordinary dude.
the dude asked so many insane questions, none of which is illegal, by the way. I just need you to understand. Nothing.
Are you saying it's not weird for CBP to ask if you talk about Trump? I think that's weird. They'll ask you literally anything. What's the weirdest question they asked? I've had when I'm trying to think. One of the times I came back through Germany, this is the second time, they asked me. It wasn't what race I played, but they started asking me questions about the games. Fuck, what was it? It wasn't about StarCraft because the guy hadn't heard of StarCraft, but he started asking me something else about like World of War or some other game or whatever. Like they just want to talk. They're just trying to talk to get you to talk to see if you have like a rehearsed story or if you're going to say some. Because if you are coming through and you're up to some illegal shit, you might say, okay, I came through here and I am a video game streamer and I stream video games. Okay, that's it. Let's go. And if you you seem really relaxed, and guys like, oh, what are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm a video game streamer. I stream video games. Oh, cool. What do you stream? I stream a variety of FPSs, Fortnite and, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. And the guy's like, oh, Modern Warfare. Who's your favorite other streamer that does like Modern Warfare? And you're like, what a weird question. But if they ask you a few questions like that, and you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't really watch any other Modern Warfare streamers. It's like, oh, are there any guns you like in Modern Warfare? And you're like, he asked me about the guns that I like? How strange. What he's asking is the questions that you're starting to answer is starting to seem like your story is a little bit bullshit. That's what they're doing. They're just asking questions because the more that you talk to somebody, if this is your job, and the more that they talk, eventually people. This is why I always tell people like lying in movies and TV shows is like so sexy and awesome. In real life, it's really, 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 really hard to lie. Like not only do you have to sell it physiologically, there are so many different things you have to keep track of. And the reality is if you get a guy and you talk to him for 10 or 15 minutes, if his story is bullshit for 99.999% of people, it's going to fall apart and you're completely lose it. That's all they're doing when they're talking to you. They're just trying. So don't try to like tell any weird lies or any whatever. But please don't misinterpret what I'm saying is that you should volunteer information to the cops or go and talk to the cops. This is just if you're at a border patrol checkpoint, you have to talk. Like this is what they're doing.
Nothing I have done thus far is illegal, as in nothing I've done online is illegal as of now, if that makes sense. Now, laws may change in the future and they might actually start.
Wait, did he say that to them? Did he tell the guy, hey, just so you know, nothing I'm doing is illegal?
Prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of this administration. But so far, everything I've done is fully protected under the First Amendment. Okay? And none of these questions are actually valid questions to ask. But I was entertaining it because I didn't want to present it as being difficult because I didn't want to extend the tension. And two, I actually wanted to see how far I could take it. Maybe it was fucked up of me to do that. Maybe it was not appropriate for me to do that, to play fast and loose with a person that has complete control over my life in that very moment. But I wanted to see like what they were trying to get away, like what they were trying to take from this conversation.
This is some real investigative journalism right here, guys.
So, instead of just pleading the fifth as I'm supposed to do, in situations,
you're absolutely not supposed to do that. When you're at the border, I don't even know what fucking rights you have as an American citizen. But you do not have like, I don't believe you have. I'm almost positive you don't have like the right to remain silent or not answer any questions. Like you're kind of compelled to play along with whatever they're doing. But
like this, I just kept giving him answers. And there were definitely areas where I was very revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump. Yes. Right?
Like, none of them give a fuck. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a fuck. None of the people that are working these jobs are here to like... I'm here to protect Trump's reputation as much as... Did you just say something? Is this guy a Trump hater? Nobody gives a fuck, dude.
Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What the fuck is up with that? And the guy actually was very sympathetic.
Why would the Constitution not apply there? I don't know. I'm just pretty sure it doesn't. I don't know. I feel like I've read this before. I feel like I should know this because your rights. But when you're coming through like Border Patrol, they can detain you for a whole bunch of crazy shit. I do not think you have the same rights coming back into the country as you now. Like they can't like execute you or do like arrest you and arrest you indefinitely. But they can detain you for a long time off some weird. Like I think the PC standards are either non-existent or different. It's different. You have different. You can't just like come back in the country like I plead the fifth. Let me walk in. Fuck you. Like, I don't think you can do that.
The agent was very sympathetic. And I don't know if it was like a JCS style interrogation technique to come across as sympathetic to like invoke some kind of positive feelings out of me in an effort to like get me to reveal something maybe that'll trip me up, or because he just genuinely was sympathetic and he had the vibes of someone who was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? But he was like, listen, I'm Iraqi, so I know. And let me tell you, I do think that him being Iraqi played a big role in this.
Oh my
because if
God.
he wasn't, there was a lot of fucking Redditor ass white boys that are at Customs and Border Patrol at O'Hare Airport. I saw them walk by. There was a dude who looked like he was like 25 max, but he was balding. And I knew immediately, if that motherfucker's my agent, I'm screwed. I'm going to CCOT. This dude is going to literally fucking cook me. So I got a little lucky.
Don't get our hopes
all
up.
right? I will admit. So basically, I think the reason why they sent the Iraqi CBP agent is because they bracket you into different categories. For me, they wanted to conduct an investigation about my involvement with Hamas and my involvement with the Houthis.
Yeah, dude.
And they suspected my involvement with Hezbollah. Straight up. That's literally what this conversation was about. And it's not even a joke. Like they straight up fucking tried to get something out of me that I think they could use to basically detain me permanently.
Okay.
Which is insane. Because there is no direct connection or direct involvement. So I'll say this much. So we're talking.
Do you then not have the camera self-checkout cams on Chicago Airport? Here in Orlando, you can just scan your passport and look at a camera and walk right out. Yeah, but it sounds like he got flagged. But this is the first time he's come back into the country with global entry, so they might just flag all new people coming back for the first time with it.
You know, I'm telling him like, oh, I'm Chicago. I'm going to be speaking there for the journalism school. I told him like, you know, I don't like Donald Trump, and I was like, so why are you guys doing this? And he's like, oh, it's just like routine. It's a routine process. I was like, it doesn't feel too routine.
Oh my God.
And basically, my big fear from the entire situation was like, if they were to ask for my phone, not that there's anything incriminating on my phone, but I don't want the fucking federal government inside of my phone beyond all of the times where they probably have been engaging in like warrantless surveillance on my phone or whatever the fuck. I don't like, it's not your business. You know what I mean? It's none of your fucking business. So it's a goddamn free country. Like there's privacy laws for this kind of shit, right?
I think they can seize your phone at the border. The rights I think that you have at the border are much different than the ones you would ordinarily have inside the country. But
so
how often do they actually ask for your phone though? I don't know. They've asked for mine twice. Like I said, that one mindfuck time I came back through Germany, I had to find so much shit. They were like, I need to show me on Skype, who invited you here for this video game tournament? You said video game tournament? What's the name of the guy? Find me on Skype. Like, show me where he asks you. Show me where he sent you tickets. Show me I was like, oh God, I'm like fucking trying to scroll through my shit. I'm like, oh fuck. I felt so guilty.
Those of you
Fuck me. I didn't even do anything wrong.
who don't know, by the way, they can't actually unlock your phone, but if you have biometrics on your phone, they could technically use that and put the phone to your face and unlock it that way. Hold on, let me fix this. Let me fix the banner. So just so you know, they could technically do that, okay? They could technically do that, but there's a trick. Either you get a burner phone when you're traveling internationally, or if you have your regular phone, you can just do a passcode by either canceling biometrics, or if you forgot to do so,
How long do you think this interrogation lasted? He reveals it later. My gut, from the sounds of it, just the conversation, probably 5 to 10 minutes, and then maybe sitting in that fucking room. If it's the same one where they pull you after, I don't know, that could be like an hour or two because they have one fucking person staffed back there. Fuck that shit.
Got to cancel by.
I say back there. I've never even been through O'Hare, but I don't know. I hate everything having to do with CBP coming back into the United States. It's annoying as fuck.
Biometrics, like your Face ID. What you can do is click it 5 times. If you click hold 5 times.
They fucked with a lawyer of a protester at the airport, so they do this. I never believe these stories unless I get a lot of details. Not to sound like a hater, and it's true for the left and right. I'm not like singling them out, but people will always say that they got like unfairly, you know, stopped or whatever, and then it's like, oh my God, why did they stop you? They stopped me because I was a Trump supporter or because I was a Bernie supporter. And it's like, really? Damn, that's crazy. And then you read the story and it's like, so James walked into the police station with 15 rifles slung over his back. And then when police officers told him to drop them, he said, Allah Akbar, my favorite movie is Rambo 1, First Blood. And then they decided to arrest him and ask him some questions. And it's like, okay, bro, this...
In a row, it will actually disable Face ID, and it will force you to put your passcode in. And because there are laws against like the agents not being able to force you to put your passcode in, they can't actually access your phone like that. Now, there's different methods.
The law. So I think the law he's talking about is the Fifth Amendment. I don't know if this even applies to the border shit, I imagine, but like you have the right not to self-incriminate, right? Which makes sense. It's a good right. The reason why you have the right not to self-incriminate is because if you didn't have that right, then theoretically people could lock you up and torture you until you confessed your crimes, right? So you have the right not to have to testify against yourself at your own trial. When it comes to helping investigators, you don't have to give them the password to a digital device because in a way, I guess that's been ruled, I don't know if it's Supreme Court or whatever, but they've said that's self-incrimination. However, if you use biometrics to open your devices, so like a picture of your face or your thumbprint, well, they can collect that information and they can get into your devices. So if you just use a passcode, you're not compelled to ever give that over. But if you use biometrics, they can use that to unlock your stuff, I believe.
Of how they can access your phone, from what I understand, they can also put it on a computer and just like plug it into a machine, and the machine just basically takes all of the information.
Was that French scientist who was not allowed entry after they found anti-Trump stuff on his phone treated unfairly? So like I heard that story and it sounded bad. I didn't believe it when it first came out. I thought I read more about it, and it was like he actually had said or done there were a couple other like kind of weird things, and he just ended up getting turned around. But I would have to go back and check it again. I don't know.
Now there's different methods of how
they can make you put your thumb on the screen. I don't know. I don't think they can compel you to put your thumb on the screen, but they can make like they can take your fingerprint and then you see like a composite and then open it that way, right?
How they can access your phone, from what I understand, they can also put it on a...
I'm pretty sure they can also take an image of the hard drive of the phone regardless of whether they can get the passcode or not. Yes, but all of the information on modern phones is going to be encrypted and unbreakable if it's, I think, for Android and over iPhone. So that shouldn't matter right now.
Computer and just like plug it into a machine, and the machine just basically takes all of the information on your phone. So it is what it is.
Wait, what?
From what laws against like the agents not being able to force you to put your passcode in, they can't actually access your phone like that. Now there's different methods of how they can access your phone. From what I understand, they can also put it on a computer and just like plug it into a machine, and the machine just basically takes all of the information in your phone.
That shouldn't be possible.
So
no.
It is what it is. I don't know if you can actually do that if your phone is on, but I was thinking about all these things. I had already unlocked the biometrics, like I disallowed biometrics, and it's a Faraday cage once you get into the detention center anyway, so you can't actually send any fucking text messages once you're in there. It's there's no access to the internet, but
unless somebody said Celebrite can unlock most phones even if they are locked with the exception of the... Okay, maybe if there's some program with some 0 day, but the fact that you even know about that program means that I feel like intuitively that's unlikely, but...
I'm sitting there...
I heard that Israel has a way to break into older iPhones. I don't know if that's true or not, but...
And they're asking me about Trump, they're asking me about, like, Hamas, and he kept saying stuff like, do you like Hamas? Like, do you support Hamas? Do you think Hamas is a resistance group? Do you think Hamas is a terrorist group or a resistance group? Like, he just kept asking over and over again, right? And I kept repeating the same statement over and over again. I kept saying, I kept saying a couple different things. One, in terms of like Israel and all the wars, I was like, I'm on the side of civilians. I want the endless bloodshed to end. I am a pacifist.
When you're saying things like this, my guess is these are probably red flag things when you won't just like openly disavow. And when they keep asking the question, they're probably not trying to see if you end up saying like, I support Hamas, but they're just a guess, I don't know. My guess is what they're looking for here is you to say something like, I've only ever delivered food to Hamas, or I've only ever given them this, or I've only ever done that. They're trying to say, like, is this motherfucker like ferrying supplies to these people? They don't give a fuck about your political views. They don't care. They don't give a fuck. But if you're engaged in some type of material support, they will care about that. And if you're giving kind of cagey answers like this, I support the freedom of blah, 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 they might ask questions around it. So Celebrate gets everything off of your phone, even though it's completely locked. Funny enough, it's an Israeli company. I'd have to look into that. I don't believe that, but
I want wars to end. I just kept repeating that over and over again. Every single time he asked me a question, I just kept repeating that. And every single time he asked me a question, a leading question about Hamas, I kept saying, the United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. The United States State Department recognizes Hamas as a terrorist organization. So, like, he just kept asking me over and over again, like Hamas, Houthis, all this shit, trying to be like, oh, do you support them? Do you like them? Like, what do you think about them?
the idea is that with a hardware clone, you can brute force it by trying passwords against emulations of it infinite times. Well, but you can't do it infinite times because eventually the heat death of the universe will limit your ability to test a password. Even if you created a million billion clones of a drive, I don't know, is it RSA 2040, whatever encryption they're using, or AES, whatever, like it would take you hundreds of trillions or quadrillions or septillions of years to crack it, even if you have a billion emulations and you're constantly brute forcing all of them.
Which I thought was fucking insane, because the reality of the matter is, okay, up until this very moment, if you were to say, as an American citizen, you stand 10 toes down with Hamas or you stand 10 toes down with the Houthis or whatever the fuck, they can't deny you entry into the country for that shit. But I don't know what the fuck they're trying to do. So I was like, I'm not going to go beyond it. I'm not going to go beyond just like reiterating over and over again. The American government's position is that...
Depends on how strong the password you used is. Oh, actually, I'm so sorry. Literally, forget everything I just said. I'm thinking about using a brute force to break the encryption on the drive. You're talking about cloning the drive and then using brute force to do the passcode. Oh, that actually could be trivially easy. I'm sorry, I was thinking on breaking the drive encryption. Yeah, because even if you have a 6-digit code, that could probably, my guess is that could be done in seconds or minutes or whatever. If you can actually clone those drives. I don't know what the protection is like on that or how that would work. There must be some protection against that, because that would be trivially easy then, I would imagine. I don't know.
Hamas is a terrorist organization. But then he just kept asking me about the Houthis. And at that point I was like, listen, he's like, well, do you agree with the terrorist designation for the Houthis? And I said, I'm of the Brookings Institute mindset that in 2020, when Donald Trump initially designated the Houthis as a terror organization, that was a major mistake.
Oh, okay. Somebody said, whoever said that is wrong because a clone of the hard drive doesn't contain the keys required to test passcode combinations. That's stored on the CPU and it's nearly impossible / completely unviable to clone it. That might be the case. I think the only issue you run into is if you have, if a phone has been recently unlocked or something, you might be able to pull something from the memory, but I'm not actually sure. I don't know.
I talk about these issues from an academic context with humanitarian rights organizations and with academics and with journalists. As a matter of fact, this is perfectly this is, completely protected under First Amendment laws. And therefore, I don't understand what the reason why we're having this conversation is. And I kept saying that over and over again, at which point he just kind of gave up. But what I thought was really interesting was, and I even followed it up with I do call balls. I said I call balls and strikes, and there are things that Trump has done that I actually agree with, and I'm not shy about saying those things.
Bro.
Even though initially he said he was going to end all these wars, he hasn't done so.
Oh my
I think
God.
these wars are unnecessary.
I would pay so much money to just see this interview. Holy shit. This guy is sitting here at his computer pushing next, and it sounds like, so anyway, that's why I think that Trump, geopolitically, he's a threat. And I didn't like Kamala either. But I think that, I think that what he's doing and the guy, the agent's like, all right, yep, I got you. Okay, hold on 1 second.
They're costly, and a lot of civilians die in the process. I don't think it's appropriate. I think it's very inappropriate. and it must end, right? Like that's my position. But I do think that Trump did a good thing where he implemented a ceasefire with the Houthis. So when he does stuff like that, when I agree with him, I tell him what's what. Like I say it. When I agree with Trump in a decision, I'm open about it, right? So,
wait, Celebrate software will dump the phone data of an unlocked phone and look through all the files for anything suspicious. It doesn't crack the drive encryption. Oh, of an unlocked phone. It just, okay, never mind, yeah. That's, okay.
I explained that to him, and I just yapped away over and over and over again. And what I found to be particularly interesting was in the first half of the conversation, it was just like basically a fact-finding mission, right? Try to get me to say something that I think would be of interest. In the second part of the conversation, there were some real actionable items that he presented that depending on how I answer those questions, like I'm fucking going to jail. Because the first stuff was just illegal for him to ask me those questions and completely...
what?
Like completely idiotic and ridiculous, and I think they did it because they know who the fuck I am, and they wanted to, to put the fear of God into me, not knowing that I'm a stubborn piece of shit, and that's not going to work at all, right?
Is he trying to present the narrative that he like debated his way through CBP, that like they would have got him, but because he was such a good debater, he's like looking at this agent and he's like, this is a foot soldier from Ethan Klein. I know that this is an H3H3 fan. These motherfuckers aren't going to get me. And he's like looking around and he's like, that TSA agent, I bet that's that CBP guy, that's a DGG, or I know these guys. Okay, and oh my god, I think that's a Nicholas Diorio Turkey Tom fan. And he's like, I'm going to out debate all these guys and make it through here. And it's like, bro,
right? The second half of the conversation was actually like, because he left, went away for like 35 minutes, came back, and then he asked like actionable items. But one thing that I will take note of that I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, what's that, buddy?
Was the fact that a lot of the shit that like the Ethan Kleins of the world have like cried about over and over again were unironically brought up in that fucking conversation. And I was shocked.
What?
I was shocked. Okay? Not like the bleach sword, obviously, but like the...
If they know people's names and run a check before interviewing them, it's entirely possible that they knew who he is. Why are you implying that's a lie? Because they're not running your name and Googling you to figure out shit. There's probably standard stuff that pops up on the computer screen, and then they just like go through some standard questions and then ask you shit to see if you say something retarded. Now, if it was a personalized interview for like a type of visa or something, I remember when we were doing the interview for the marriage stuff with Melina, and the lady was like, so I see that you guys have stated before that you're into polyamorous relationships. What does that mean? I was like, oh shit, is this like disqualifying for a marriage visa? But these are like highly personalized interviews. You're bringing like a binder full of like personal shit, and you have like an agent assigned to you and everything. This is like a much more personalized process. But at the border, these motherfuckers are not Googling you and trying to like compile a docket or a file of all your shit.
The Houthi. Like, did you interview a Houthi? It says here that you interviewed a Houthi, and I was like, or was he actually a Houthi?
Like, when they're asking you questions like this, did you interview a Houthi? They don't actually care that much if you interviewed a Houthi. What they're probably trying to find is like, are you passing stuff to and from them, or are you going to places that are very sketchy? Like, are you in areas that an American probably shouldn't have access to or aren't allowed to be in, basically?
And I was like, he's not. You can look to all of the reporting that came out afterwards and before I interviewed him that he is not a Houthi, that he is a regular Yemeni citizen. And I said, like, his name is Rashid al-Haddad. He is not even a Shia. And the dude, luckily, again, Iraqi, went, oh yeah, that's right. That's a Sunni last name. Al-Haddad is a Sunni last name. So he must not have been a Houthi. And
it's so funny because like Hasan is so crazy. Dude, that the JCS shit, it works so well. Because like Hasan's saying like, oh yeah, because this guy was Iraqi, like he knew that what I was saying was true or whatever. In a way, that's like part of the interrogation tactics. Now, I'm not saying that they picked an Iraqi to interview him, but when you think as a person that you have some kind of like understanding with the other guy, with the agent, it's like, oh, he gets it because he's part of my... That's part of the interrogation strategy, technically, is any kind of commonality like that will make you feel more comfortable speaking to them, and you feel like they're on your side because they get you more. at the end of the day, they're just there to do their job. They don't give a fuck about you. There's no common struggle or plight here.
The very fact that that was like a point of contention that could have fucking gotten me arrested.
I don't know. Don't think it's impossible. The Trump admin is pretty wild right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they made every even remotely pro-Pally person online part of a list. They can do things from the top down, but when it comes to like at the enforcement level of individual people like this, that just nobody that works these jobs cares enough, number one. And number two, any type of directive that would be leading people to that type of behavior, this directive would be so far reaching and there would be so many media reports and stuff about it. This would not just be a random thing that would happen and like, oh God, nobody knew. Like, yeah.
Name. So he must not have been a Houthi. And the very fact that that was like a point of contention that could have fucking gotten me arrested is insane. And I genuinely in that moment was thinking like, these fucking dumbass slop tubers are actually playing with fucking fire.
Could you imagine? Wait, oh no! I was about to make the joke. I'm glad I paused. I was gonna say, could you imagine that? Could you imagine that Hasan is there in line, and all of a sudden the guy's like, "So talk to me about this," and he spins the monitor, and it's like a picture of something that's not, and he sees this from like reddit.com/r/destiny, and Hasan's like, "Oh, Hasan would kill himself in line right there."
Arrested is insane. And I genuinely in that moment was thinking like, these fucking dumbass slop tubers are actually playing with fucking fire. And I even thought about not even mentioning this because I was like, I don't want to give him any sort of like power over the situation. But like the reality of the matter is 100% the Trump administration is inadvertently working with a lot of these fucking dipshits. These dipshits are playing a formative role.
Wait, what? Who? With the slop tubers? So first I'm getting paid by the Mossad, and now Trump is talking to... Am I included in this, or is this just like Willie Mack and Ethan Klein, or...
In getting people in trouble with the law, okay? That is literally the case.
Literally.
It was shocking that that was the case, but it is the case. And it's actually very frustrating that it is the case, that this administration doesn't care. That's why they work with Beitar. That's why they work with all these other fucking insane groups. The Barry Weisses of the world actually have motion in this goddamn admin.
Motion.
Okay? So,
oh, they're true. He's trying to one up, in a way, he's trying to like one up Ethan Klein's CPS story. So like, you think you're being persecuted by, by the system or whatever? Bro, immigration literally targeted me because of you guys. He's in a way, yeah, true.
They're cheering this on over at eSub. Yeah, I know. They can suck my dick. Liberals, by the way, cheering on one of the largest progressive voices in the country getting...
Oh, and now he's back. Oh, he's back to being progressive. Nice. He's back to being oh, welcome. Good job. What's that one stupid anime where they're all clapping and the one girl is clapping and they're all like, good job. Nice job. He's a progressive again.
Detained by the fucking Trump Gestapo. Like, what a wonderful progressive... What a wonderful progressive audience they have over there. Anyway, they're fucking straight up fascist at this point. So,
true.
My point is,
yeah. What's your point, buddy?
It's crazy that like these were actual questions. Like, they asked me about my Twitch bans, okay, and I talked about blowback. I talked about how I said America deserved 9/11 and it was misconstrued. I do have sometimes I use hyperbolic language and it gets taken out of context.
You said America deserved 9/11 to the guy at Border Patrol? Why would you say this? Oh. Okay.
Whatever. And he agreed with the blowback sentiment.
There is a 100% chance also, by the way, and he'll never admit it. I guarantee you that Hasan brought me up and he's like, listen, you might see something crazy maybe online, but it's because there's this guy, okay? His name is Destiny, all right? Destiny, he does some crazy stuff about me. It's not true, okay? Guaranteed.
In terms of like the 9/11 stuff, you're dumb. Yeah, no, I told him that. I was like, yeah, they asked me about my fucking Twitch bans, chat. It's
When he says they asked about this, what actually happened is he's probably, because it sounds like he's a fucking yapper, okay? Which if you're a cop, these are your best friends ever. You love yappers, because yappers will always say retarded shit that will give you a reason to do whatever the fuck you want with them, basically. So he's probably hardcore yapping. And then as he's yapping, he probably brings up like, yeah, I stream, even though I've gotten banned sometime. Oh, he probably brought up like, oh, what'd you get banned for? And it sounds like, they asked me about my Twitch bans.
not even a joke. They asked me about fucking Twitch chat. Like Twitch bans, not Twitch chat, but Twitch bans. The other Twitch ban he asked me about was the last one that I got banned, and I explained to him like,
Destiny, defending ICE Trump army to own Hasan. This is your new low. So one, you spelled Hasan incorrectly, you fucking retard. Two, your name is Yusef, so you're definitely retarded. Three, the people that work for the U.S. government are by and large they're ordinary citizens. They're just ordinary Americans. They show up, they do their job. That's all they do, right? The idea that there is this singular, like, conservative, evil hive mind of people that are trying to disenfranchise ordinary, honest Americans from the right you're delusional. Don't do this. Don't be this person, okay?
I explained to him like, this is, man, you really talk way too much. Lawyer will be pretty upset at you. Dude,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
He did talk way too much.
I
He said
know
way too much
that
stupid
under
shit.
normal circumstances, I'm supposed to say, I want a lawyer. I don't want to talk to you.
No, you don't say, I want a lawyer. Hey, we got a few questions. Can we just ask you a couple things for the, get through the border? I want my lawyer. Okay.
But nothing I'm doing is illegal. And I also wanted to see what would happen. Do you understand?
I wanted to see what would happen. What the fuck does that even mean, little bro? What?
I wanted to see what would happen. I wanted to actually see this experience, which is why instead of immediately fucking lawyering up, I was like, no, I'm gonna entertain this. I'm gonna see what they actually are trying to get out of this. And I'm glad I did this because the reality of the matter is, one, I'm profoundly fucking privileged. Okay, remember, I'm a public person, and also I have enough money to be able to fight back against this sort of thing, and they know who the fuck I am. So
I am your fan. I just don't agree with some stuff you say. Just be neutral. They can be too bad at the same time. Hasan is bad, and what ICE did to him is bad. Nothing that's happened so far is bad. If you're coming back into the country, they will pull you. Sometimes they pull you aside and ask you questions. Don't get mind fucked. Don't get mind fucked into thinking that you have to take the opposite position of everything that conservatives believe in, right? Having a strong border is good. Illegal immigration is bad. Crime is bad. Criminals are bad. We can believe these things. It's okay. It's okay. All right. It's okay to have security at the border. It's okay to ask people questions when they're coming to the country. That's fine.
obviously, the reason for why they're doing that is, I think, to try to create an environment of fear, to try to get people like myself, or at least like others that would be in my shoes that don't have that same level of security, to shut the fuck up. And for me, I'm going to use the privilege that I have in that moment to try and see what the fuck they're doing.
I'm crying.
Okay?
He's so brave.
Because every single thing that they ask me, trying to get me to say something like, oh, I support Hamas or whatever, is literally not allowed. Like, they are not.
You can ask
what
whatever
the fuck
you
do you
want.
mean?
You
Like,
can ask
why is
whatever you
this
want. Anybody can ask whatever
denying me
they want.
entry into the country
It wouldn't necessarily deny you entry. They can ask you whatever. You don't have to answer if you don't want. They can ask you whatever the fuck.
of my birth. Like this.
But don't these kinds of jobs produce a selection bias that favors a certain type of person? Yes, they can. And I think that people can lean in a certain direction, but just because it favors a certain type of person doesn't mean that like that's the ordinary person, right? There are going to be some crazies for sure. There are going to be some crazies for sure. But like Hasan is acting like, yeah, like he was fucking like Anne Frank coming through the security. It was retarded.
This is my birthright. I'm an American citizen. You can't just stop me at the fucking border and be like, what's your opinion on Donald Trump? You're not allowed to enter the nation. Like, that's fucking bullshit. So, that was the first half. Like I said, they asked about the Twitch bans. They asked about like the Rick Scott statement. And I was like, listen, I don't, I laughed. I was like, I'm not calling for the assassination of a.
Couldn't Hasan have recorded this interaction? That sounds like bullshit. Usually, from my personal experience, they don't allow you to use phones at all in these areas. So
sitting senator to be fucking insane. But instead, I explained to him, like I was talking about the hypocrisy of the Republicans, blah, blah, blah. I explained away all that shit. And he was understanding. Then he
my
went
God.
back and he came back, and the actionable items that came up afterwards was basically asking me about if I had ever been in contact with Hamas, if I had ever been in contact with the Houthis, directly or indirectly, if I had ever actually been in contact with Hezbollah, if I had actually ever offered financial support or logistics or
Yes, these are the big things that they're checking for. Yeah.
any kind of support to Hamas, Hezbollah, or Houthis. They straight up asked me that. And I laughed. I said, no, of course not. But yeah, that was once.
Was this even a genuine detention for an actual criminal investigation or just a standard interview? No, it wasn't a standard interview. It was like an extra you get pulled aside and asked, but this wasn't a detention. There was no like probable cause. I think my guess is it's because he came back for the first time with global entry, and those people probably have heightened screening. Because the first time I came back with global entry, they also pulled me aside. I didn't even think of that until somebody brought it up. That's probably why. The first time you come back with it, they probably pull you aside and ask you some questions or something.
Once again, these are questions that they're asking. But one thing that I thought was really interesting was in the actionable side of things, they also asked, have you ever interviewed a member of Hamas? Have you ever had a communication or correspondence with a member of Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis? Now, what's really fucking insane about that?
The questions he's being asked seem much more than just random screening with global entry. Well, probably because he's volunteering a lot of information, and they're going to ask him follow-up questions based on what he says, right? So, like, if I'm coming back and they're like, "Oh, what'd you do?" and it's like, "Oh, I have a wife in Sweden. I go there." And they're like, "What do you do for work?" It's like, I stream politics." "Oh, politics? That's cool. Did you talk to any political people when you're here?" "Yeah, there's actually a guy who's part of the Free Palestine movement, and I'm really close to a lot of those people, and I talk with them." "Oh, interesting. Free Palestine movement. Who do they work with?" It's like, "Oh, they do some, they apparently they are affiliated with Hamas sometimes." And I was like, "Oh, really? Hamas? Have you ever talked to any people like that?" Like that's where the conversation will go if I'm volunteering this information. And by the end, you can be like, "Wow, those are a lot of pointed questions for a random screening." I was like, well, depending on the answers you volunteer, they're going to ask you follow-ups, and they're going to get to that subject matter, right?
Is that as someone who works in media, sometimes I do actually do journalism, right? As I've maintained this position.
And I will say this, explain global entry. It's like TSA pre, but for international travel. Instead of having to go through the ordinary customs line, you get to go through the expedited cuck line. The biggest warning takeaway that I'll have from the massive drama queen story that Hasan is telling is please, please, please. This is coming from somebody who's very smart. I am a very smart person. Even I know. Do not ever try to think you can like outsmart investigators. It's just an extended lie is impossible to keep up unless you have like fucking special forces training. Okay, you don't know what information they're working with. Just don't ever go through this thinking that like you can debate your way through a police interaction or whatever. Assuming you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, like be honest and as forthcoming as you need to be. Don't volunteer extra bullshit and get yourself in trouble. But
over and over again, and I said that I would have given the opportunity to talk to someone that is a part of the Ansar Allah movement, a Houthi, or even Hamas, or even Hezbollah, right? I think that I have the right to do so. And what was interesting, you don't do journalism, you grift. I know, Chatter. That's why the fucking federal government is trying to arrest me. Yes,
oh my
because
God,
I'm grifting
bro.
too hard.
It's so cringe.
That's what it is.
You're
Thank
such
you.
a victim, dude.
Yes, your fucking dumbass slop tuber is correct. I'm
Oh
grifting.
my God.
So what's interesting, asking that is a violation of prior restraint.
What?
So that part, like those are the questions that are like actionable, right? Like those are the ones that if you say, how do you even classify a member of Hamas? It's not like even Hamas issues passports. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? But that is the part where they were like, if you answer yes to any of that, that's when, there's like actually illegal stuff in there. Having said that, there is one part of it that wasn't illegal, which is being in communications or being in contact with someone in Hamas. Like that is a part of journalism you actually can do. It's fucking ridiculous. Like you can interview ISIS. Like what are we talking about?
Yeah, you can do that. You can do all of that. Now, if you admit that, they might ask you a few extra questions, but yeah, you can do that. Nobody's saying otherwise, little bro.
The notion that this would be an issue for the Customs and Border Patrol is fucking ridiculous, okay? I mean, Donald Trump is in contact with Hamas. He had a fucking envoy directly talk to Hamas a couple months prior. He's in direct contact with the fucking Houthis. Like, what are you talking about? And so is Dropsite. Like, the idea that this was the idea that this will deny you entry into the country is
Like, he keeps saying that this will deny you entry. None of this would have necessarily denied him entry. Even if he would have had direct contact with, you know, the Houthis or anybody else, none of that necessarily would deny him entry. He's just saying that.
fucking bullshit. Like, what are we talking about? What do you mean? Like, what kind of insane double standard is there, right? And so that part was frustrating. And the interview interrogation, whatever you want to call it, that basically ended
I had to go back to the more extreme language.
with me asking, like, so what is the purpose of this? Like, am I being detained? And because I was like, you know that I'm gonna talk about this. I was like, a lot of people have talked about this, like, detainment structure. And he was like, yeah, people really exaggerate. The people really exaggerate how these things go. And I was like, well, it is not a great situation to be in, you know? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, he was like, yeah, there's been a lot of reporting on, you know, the conditions and situations like this in detainment, but you're not technically detained. I was like, so I can leave? Like, I asked him, like, am I detained? And he's like, no. I was like, all right, so what's the purpose of this entire situation? I can just walk out right now. And basically, when I said that, the interview ended.
That's why he wasn't even... Dude, I guarantee you that this guy's like, okay, yeah, you're probably good. And Hasan just sat there fucking yapping for like 20 minutes extra. He's like, yeah, well, just, you know, like, I think that Trump is horrible and everything. And the guy's like, okay, yeah. And Hasan's like, yeah, oh my God, bro, kill me. And he's going to try and present this as like, the only reason I was able to escape with my life is because I knew my rights as an American citizen. And if I wouldn't have, they could have kept me there forever until I starved to death, until I died. Oh my God.
So I don't know if that was something that I should have said from the start. Am I being detained? You know, what's the deal here? But basically, yeah, it was a illegal pretense. Like, well, that's your Fourth Amendment right? No, you don't have. Okay, chatters, I need you to understand something. So after I said, am I being detained or whatever, he was like, no, well, you know, he didn't like abruptly end it. He kept asking some questions, but it pretty much ended after that. And I don't know if that was like, I don't know if that's like,
they were like, oh fuck, this guy knows his rights. We gotta get the fuck out of here.
I got lucky there. Because when I asked, like, am I free to go, that kind of stopped the process a little bit. And I don't know if that's the reason why I didn't have them look through my phone, but I wasn't planning on letting them look through my phone anyway. That was my point. Like, there was a line where I was going to say, I'm done. Wow. I'm done with this. Either fucking arrest me or, you know, let me go. I don't know what the fuck's happening here.
How can one man be so brave?
I got detained. I didn't get detained. Yes, chatter. Yes.
Uh-oh.
ICE agents took me to a detention center. That is a de facto detention. Like, what are you talking about?
And by took me to a detention center, he means that we walked down the highway. Or, I'm sorry, not the highway, Jesus. We walked down the hallway, and I waited in a room with some other people.
The total runtime of it was like 2 hours.
An hour and a half of that was probably just him sitting there waiting to get interviewed.
Which was definitely faster than I thought it was going to be, I will admit. And I probably should have asked, am I being detained from the start? And I wonder what would have happened. But I basically asked him, like, do you think this is going to happen again? Right? I was like, is this going to happen again? Hold on. I asked, like, you know, am I gonna be detained in the future? And he said, maybe. And he
They
gave
don't
me this
fucking
piece
know.
of paper, this sheet from Homeland Security. What is DHS trip? Okay. And you can, I guess, submit an inquiry at dhs.gov/trip and ask why I was stopped. You will be prompted to describe your particular concerns and experience, provide contact information to which a response will be directed, and be assigned a case number to help you monitor the progress of your inquiry, which I will do. Okay, I will do this. And he basically said, you know, you can figure out what not to do so that this doesn't happen again. And I suspect the what not to do is just don't be a fucking political commentator that speaks about American foreign policy.
No, the what not to do is when the guy says, what's your job? Probably not going, oh, I interview a bunch of people on the U.S. State Department designated terrorist list, and I support 9/11 against the United. Like, probably just to not say or volunteer retarded information like that.
Which is not something I'm planning on stopping. Now, why did I tell you guys about this experience?
Because I want you to know that I was able to survive it because of my privilege as being a wealthy American who was able to astutely know my rights, assert them appropriately, and debate my way through Customs and Border Patrol. But not everybody can do this, guys.
Okay. Why did I tell you about this entire experience? Like, because in my mind, I thought maybe I shouldn't reveal this stuff because I think like the goal here is to put fear into
Yes, true.
people's hearts, to have a chilling effect on speech, that like the government is unafraid of intimidating you in illegal ways. Okay.
Yeah, illegal,
the government
very
is now officially willing and able to intimidate you for speech, for your speech. That is a direct violation of the First Amendment. I'm no fucking First Amendment auditor. I'm no big city libertarian. I'm no Mr. Admiral Maritime Law. But the reality of the matter is that as of this administration, they are totally willing and able to actually come after you for your speech. And even with like ridiculous shit. Like they're willing and able to go along with like stuff that gets written in the free press, or willing and able to go along with shit that even fucking Redditors bring up. Okay, that's how stupid and silly this situation has gotten. Now, of course, does this stop me from saying whatever the fuck I want to say? Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it was to give you more insight into what the government is doing, and to speak out against this sort of stuff, because I do have a position of privilege here, and I want to
There it
make sure
is.
that like if they can do this to me, like they
If what he says is true, isn't he just spreading that fear campaign right now? Yes, this is the goal, right? It's always endless criticism and just fucking whatever he can to make himself sound like a fucking martyr. Yes, it's fucking retarded.
probably are willing and able to do this to others as well, but you
And this also, like, if he has that whatever that agency that it's doing all the PR for him to get all these like articles written about him, I imagine he might get lucky and he can go and retread a lot of ground with the websites that feature profiles of him, because now, oh, that guy that we profiled for his brave controversial beliefs is now getting stopped by Trump in order to investigate his political beliefs, and he's being harassed at the border, right? So it's a good narrative too.
should know your rights, that you should not be fearful, and you should not worry, especially if you're an American citizen, that these guys are going to come after you and like arrest you or some shit. Okay?
I'm crying. So brave.
Was your interview recorded? I don't know.
They probably record all of those, would be my guess.
But it is pretty wild, I will say. As someone who's been held up in airports many times over, it was actually shocking.
Wow.
It was actually shocking that these guys totally fucking grabbed me, knowing exactly who I am, knowing that I will most likely talk about this, with the hopes that I think that they would at least
God.
stoke some fear and threaten people like myself. And
That's like, just no. Nobody knows who you are, little bro. Nobody gives a fuck. None of these guys were targeting you. Like, if this would have been a targeted ordeal, this would have looked way different. You would have had like special agents. It wouldn't have just been a random guy at the fucking desk calling you up. Okay, you would have had special agents. You would have been taken to a different area that didn't just have a bunch of. He even said like a bunch of other random people, family members or whatever, through here. Like,
then also threaten others as a byproduct of this. I mean, it backfired in my situation, but I
Backfired.
hope this doesn't discourage others from speaking out as well. It's fucking bullshit. They don't have the right to do this. Okay, they do not have a right to do this.
I'm sorry. I have the credit right now to just call you a total fucking liar. It's kind of dumb to hate on this. If it happened to Destiny, he would be talking about this too. Although he wouldn't be trying to dramatize it so much. I'm not, first of all, I've never played up Eddie shit like that, okay? I had a few interviews with I literally did the exact opposite of this when Asmongold says the FBI came to him over the threats that Mike from PA and everybody had made. The FBI came to me too. I saw him, yeah. And they were like, oh, like, we want to talk to you about this. I was like, yeah, I know this guy. He says a bunch of retarded shit online. These are not real threats. Like, it's not a big deal. Here's my email. They gave me a card. It's like, okay, cool. We'll stay in touch. That's it. Boom. Like, this is an easy thing. I got swatted like a few months ago. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, no, these things happen. This is retarded. I've never fucking blown up or made huge fucking deals out of shit like this, which is apparently a fucking mistake because I should be doing this about literally everything that happens in life because you get so much fucking attention off of it. But no, it's retarded.
If you don't already know, your ops are doing mass email campaigns to the feds to try and get this exact same thing to happen. Yeah, I know. They can suck my cock for all of my fucking dumbass ops. I think it's really crazy. I think it's really, really crazy.
Yeah, tell us.
That the government is willing and able to work.
I just tuned in. What happened? Hasan came back to the United States with his brand new global entry. They pulled him aside for probably a standard additional screening interview. And now he's pretending like Donald Trump himself gave the order to identify political dissidents like Hasan and to put the fear of God in him by asking him 20 minutes of questions from a CBP agent. That's what's happening right now.
Work with like genuine schizophrenic stalkers, whether they be Beitar or any other group. It is actually wild that they're willing and able to work with these people. It blows my mind. But, you know, that is where we're at. It also blows my fucking mind that there are people who see this kind of stuff and go, oh, that's wonderful. It's like swatting. But this time, it's a it's a federal swatting that we can do. We can get the federal agents to like
this is whatever, dude. This is gross. Swatting is like, I would argue that swatting is like an attempted murder scenario. Like you're putting somebody in a position through no fault of their own where you're trying to see if you can get somebody killed at like the worst. This is random screening. You have no proof whatsoever that anybody else is involved in this. Your dumbass was volunteering so much information to this guy, which you shouldn't have been, but you think you're smarter than you actually are, and you thought it would make for an epic story, so you did. Like, this has nothing to do with swatting. You have no proof or no evidence or no anything that anybody here has contacted the feds. Like, where the fuck would you even do that at? Like
jail people that my favorite content creator doesn't like. But the problem is, airports are not constitutional free zones. That's a lie.
Why does your tweet say it's his first time returning to the U.S.? He's obviously traveled abroad before. It's his first time coming back with global entry, and it sounds like he either doesn't travel internationally a lot, which could actually be the case. I don't know if I have heard of him traveling internationally a lot. It sounds like he doesn't travel a lot, or he's just hoping that other people don't travel, I guess.
ICE pushes to make you comply with them. That's not entirely correct, Lesbian Bolivar. There is precedent. After years and years there's years and years of precedent in post 9/11 war on terror world where they have actually created a structure where they can get away with violating your Fourth Amendment rights in airports. Like it's in a legal gray area. But yeah, here was Lolo. Overrules take DHS flagging and detaining one of U.S.'s largest left-wing voices for their political opinions, while the Trump admin suggests they might suspend habeas corpus, does not portend well for the future.
Like Lil Bro wants to be involved in like the real shit so badly. Like, oh shit, when they talk about suspending habeas corpus, this is kind of like that. When they stopped me and questioned me at the airport, like, kill me, dude. What is global entry? I'm vacationing out of the U.S. in a bit. Should I know what this is? Global entry is like TSA pre, but for international travel. It just lets you come back through Customs and Border Patrol like way quicker than. Well, I mean, it depends. Sometimes it depends on when you're flying, what airport you're coming through. Sometimes the ordinary line isn't that long.
Yeah. That's where we're at. What was the reason for the detainment? You know what the reason for the detainment was. It's because I am flagged in the flight manifest. Even ACLU and most civil rights organizations acknowledge.
Is global entry like Nexus? Someone correct me wrong. I think global entry and Nexus are basically the same thing, but is Nexus the thing that's only for Canada and America, and global entry is like that, but for everything? Somebody can tell me, I think. I don't remember.
That SCOTUS president that effectively erases Fourth Amendment protections in border entry zones such as international airports. They more so suggest either wiping your devices or bringing burner devices. Yeah. Saw you at O'Hare and tried to get a selfie with you, but your private security took you into a VIP room to avoid normies like me. Didn't realize you were too good for your fans. Some socialist you turned out to be. Good one. There was actually 2 Hasan Abi heads at as I was walking out of ICE detention. There were 2 Hasan Abi heads. They probably had no idea that I was walking out of ICE detention with a fucking agent in front of me, but
Why would you get interviewed extra for coming back with global entry? Isn't the whole point that it's faster? Yeah, but the first time they might do like extra screen or some bullshit.
is this going to change the way you travel? No, but it does actually gum up the works a little bit in terms of going to Cuba. I did want to go to Cuba, but now I don't know. And no, I'm not going to fucking go to Kat's campaign office, chat. What are you guys, stupid? I'm sorry. I know she's excited, but you guys don't have to literally fucking be like, hey, can you, instead of covering the news, go to Kat's campaign office? I can't do that today.
What is Kat's campaign office?
Chat, there is a shit ton of news that I have to get to, and then at fucking 4 p.m. I have to leave to go to the University of Chicago to deliver a speech. Okay, there's a lot going on today. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so he learned that it might inconvenience him, so he's not going to Cuba. Maybe he probably just never wanted to go. Fuck that. True.
But oh, I forgot. There was other questions that they asked, like, have you traveled to the Middle East? Have you been to the have you been to any of the Gulf states? All this shit.
Wow, crazy. That's
And
wild. She's running for Congress in Illinois. Gotcha.
You know, it is what it is. I'm not discouraged. I'm not intimidated.
I'm not discouraged. I'm not intimidated, but I'm canceling my trip to Cuba. Okay. Little bro wants to have it all ways, I guess. All right.
I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I just wanted to give you guys.
He probably just doesn't like traveling, which, by the way, I totally get, because not streaming is stressful and you're literally just deleting money from your bank account when you're not streaming. But that's probably in his mind. He doesn't like traveling because of the lost revenue from streaming and seeing the sub numbers go down and shit when you're out of the country.
Guys, I know Kat wants us to hang out. I can't do that today.
Oh, damn. And this person running for Congress even has said that she wants to hang out, that she wants to do probably some promotion, but she doesn't have enough clout, I'm guessing. And he wants to make money. He has to stream from his hotel room and make money covering everything and keep those subs up. Jeez, he's actually such a hardcore grifter. It's fucking insane.
Today.
Jesus.
Did they ask who funds you? No, they asked if I funded them, not the other way around.
Because they're trying to see if he provides material support.
So,
yeah. True.
That was my Customs and Border Patrol experience. And yeah, it's just like pure intimidation tactics. And it was very similar to the experience that one TikToker talked about. But luckily, I never got to the point of having them go through my phone. And that was my red line, like, no matter what. That was where I was going to be like, no, you can't do that.
So brave.
And, you know, arrest me then if
How
you
could
want
one
to.
man be so brave? That's the real question.
Is this speech open to the public? We are going to be live streaming it. We're live streaming the speech. Okay. Did they ask why you say you're a gaming streamer despite not playing games? Yes.
Got him. I think Hasan has got a portable streaming setup. He streams when he travels. Yeah, but you're still streaming less. And he obviously, if he goes to see this cat person, he would take more time off streaming. And you probably don't get as good views while streaming and traveling. He gets better views, ironically, as a streamer. When you're not an IRL streamer, you get better views just sitting in your home, like what I'm doing now.
Any plans for a Chicago meetup? No. I'm going to be
Nope.
flying out
Gotta stream.
after my speech.
Gotta stream, baby.
I'm going to University of Chicago. I'm going to University of
Why don't you accept money for speeches, but his son does? Seems lame. He's got to get that paper, boo-boo.
Chicago to talk to.
If somebody has, like, if it's like a big company or it's somebody that's got, like, a huge budget, I'll accept money for it. I just usually for some stuff, like, when I found out colleges sometimes budget a lot for shit, well, fuck it, I'll charge a college if they got a lot of money. But for, like, smaller orgs or whatever, or for student union stuff, they don't have money, I'll do it for free.
I'm going to University of Chicago to talk with his dad. And we're just going to do like a back and forth. I think there's like questions. They had the most signups ever for any fucking speaking engagement on the campus. And they're very excited.
Cute.
And I'm very excited as well.
Cute.
Where was it? There was, oh, this is the experience that it closely resembled, by the way. ICE detains a woman who runs anti-Trump TikTok. She's a U.S. citizen born and raised. She was detained for hours as agents searched her phone and social media, even demanding financial statements on how much she earns on TikTok. They never asked me for my financial statements either.
But why?
The woman who goes by Eye of Sav was returning from a European vacation at the Miami International Airport with a valid global re-entry card issued to her as a U.S. citizen, but she also had global entry. Do you charge speaker fees? No. Sometimes, not usually.
Yeah, like even reading this girl's story, it just seems like you just get interrogated sometimes. I don't know, guys. Like not everything is like a huge fucking scandal. Are you going to stand by the claim that Jordan Peterson is full of shit about the universities when a school like Chicago is inviting this jihadist? The school of Chicago is not inviting him. It's a student organization. So if the students there want you to come, or if anybody like knows somebody from a student org, you can invite anybody. Where did I go? Dartmouth and Yale? Did I do a Yale thing? It's not like the Yale University, like the owner, the president, like Mr. John Yale, like sent me an email and he's like, Steven, we would love to have you at our university. It's just a student body. Somebody likes you there. They suggest to their student union and then you get invited for it.
How worried were you about actually being arrested? I did not know. I had no idea. I had no idea if I was going to be fucking arrested or not. I didn't know if this was like... I did not know that this was going to be a moment where I get... I didn't know if this was going to be a moment where I was going to be the precedent-setting court case. You know what I mean?
Oh my
like that is definitely
God.
a worry that I have for sure. It's something that I think about because eventually, somewhere along the line, somewhere down the line, someone is going to be the precedent-setting court case of whether or not someone gets prosecuted for speech and speech alone, because the line right now is material support. And that line is being blurred by this current administration with Mahmoud Khalil, with Mohsen Mahdawi.
Does this guy have narcissistic
Rumeyz-
personality disorder? Hasan? I don't think he's that narcissistic. I think he's just a standard kind of, like a lot of influencers or people in these positions are just kind of like insecure people.
He's a Öztürk, right? Like, they're... Wait, did I say her name? I keep saying her name wrong. Okay, no, I did say it right. Rumeyz Öztürk is the person. So that some of those people have been released at this point, but Mahmoud Khalil is still very much in detention. And according to Marco Rubio, the argument that they are trying to use is that speech is material support, right? They are actively trying to blur the boundaries between what constitutes material support to try to make it seem as though things that would be protected under First Amendment would be considered material support. Expressing any sort of opinion is considered material support. And that's fucking bullshit. Anyway. People take for granted that the CBP key unlock your phone with a special computer, but to the best of my knowledge, modern iPhones have a locally keyed encryption on the flash storage, which likely makes it useless if they can pull it. Maybe you shouldn't have said if they come for me, then it's over, as if you'd be last. If you're a public figure, dog, maybe you'd be first now. No, because they haven't come for me beyond like
Targeting
being
me
a
at the
nuisance
airport.
and being fucking annoying and thinking that they can get away with like trying to put some sort of fear in my heart, which is of course not going to work.
Good job. So brave. Fuck.
Obviously.
Push his glasses up.
Can you detail what they asked you? I already did, Cliff. Wow, you forgot.
Why his fans should push him? Not that they will, because all these people are brain dead. Like, you said that it didn't make you scared. You said that they didn't intimidate you. You said that they weren't able to change your behavior in any way. Why again did you say you're canceling your trip to Cuba? I bet it's because he doesn't think you'll have good internet there to stream or something.
Or you missed it. Do you think that's all they wanted? I don't know. Maybe they're setting up an investigation for the future. Who knows? We'll find out.
Kill me.
We shall find out. But as it stands, I think like it's a normal process now. Yeah, Seamus said, been pulled into secondary screening many times at O'Hare. CBP had the most involved in specific questions about Gaza for me by far. Glad to see you got out of there without having to give up your devices. Yeah.
It happened.
How worried was your family? They were also on flight, so by the time I got out, it was, you know, you're flagged as a travel risk now. Scary stuff. Yeah.
No. Listen, he might have lost the debate to the commentary slop YouTubers like Willie Mack and Ethan Klein, but he won the debate when it really mattered. I get a Red Bull and use the restroom 1 sec.
Are you concerned about landing in LA? No, because that's domestic travel. There's no Customs and Border Patrol experience during domestic travel. That'd be fucking insane. But yeah, I am my worst enemy in that regard. I did want to get this interaction out because I wanted to like figure out what the fuck they were doing. And I'm fortunate that I didn't actually get into any additional trouble. But I could have. You know what I mean? That could have certainly happened. Right? And who knows? I can't imagine how scared the other non-American citizens waiting there were. It's evil. Yeah. I mean, it's so much worse for them because like I am profoundly privileged, as I say all the time. I'm profoundly privileged. I'm rich. I'm an American citizen. I was born here, you know? And I have I'm a public figure on top of that. So all of this stuff plays a role in how protected I am from additional scrutiny. How familiar were they with your channels? No, they were very familiar. Well, to be fair, you said Americans are disgusting. Yeah, no shit. Doesn't this fucking prove that for you? What do you mean? Like, my Palestinian spouse got their American passport flagged during the Biden presidency. They now can't get a boarding pass online, and they separate us and our stuff as security. They took their laptop and phone too. Yeah, it's really fucking gross. Are you scared to go out of the country again? No.
No.
Anyway, also, I'm an American.
All right.